a four-leaf clover. Strawberry, slice of life, singing with a sip of nectar. Sweet like honey on a summer day, I'll stick with you through the wind and the rain. Sweet like honey on a summer night, like a busy bee, take a flight. 2, 1, go! Sweet like honey, sweet like a summer day. Sweet like honey, sweet like a summer day. Sweet like honey, sweet like honey, honey. Sweet like honey, sweet like a summer day. Sweet like honey, sweet like honey, honey. Sweet like honey, sweet like a summer day. Flying high, take the dive, blue waves across the ocean. Honey straight from the hive, live it up and go with the motion. Sweet like honey on a summer day, I'll stick with you through the wind and the rain. Sweet like honey on a summer night, like a busy bee, take a flight. 2, 1, go! Sweet like honey, sweet like a summer day. Sweet like honey, sweet like a summer day. Sweet like honey, sweet like honey, honey. Sweet like honey, sweet like a summer day. Sweet like honey, sweet like honey, honey. Sweet like honey, sweet like a summer day. Springtime with you, summer with me. Flowers in fields and little yellow bees. Watch as the time passes in a haze. Sweet honey nights, golden honey days. 2, 1, go! Sweet like honey, sweet like a summer day. Sweet like honey, sweet like a summer day. Sweet like honey, sweet like honey, honey. Sweet like honey, sweet like a summer day. Sweet like honey, sweet like honey, honey. Sweet like honey, sweet like a summer day.
I could walk right beside you, show you just who I am. You know, I would. The memories we made fade.
Good morning, everybody. Morning chat, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is for you personally. Feels like it's only been a few days. Time goes fast. Yeah, that's fair. It's not like you've ever paid for the sub, so I don't feel too bad about the fact that a month goes by fast. Anyway, how's it going? We're very late today. I'd love to say that, like, that should be the time when I'm most stretched, is if I'm already, well, no, if I'm late, I often don't remember that I should be stretching until right before stream. Also, Wednesday, I felt like my voice was off. I didn't like my voice. Today, I like my voice very much. I'm not sure if my voice is even any different today. If it's just my perception of my voice. Let's see here. Crack my neck. Didn't really crack, it just stretched. And honestly, that's better. Give me 1 second. I'm grabbing coffee. I could have, of course, just stayed in the starting screen for a second longer, but that's boring. So, where was I? Thankfully, my coffee maker's right here, so besides the little echo, oh, and we're back. Coffee has been harvested. Everything feels floaty. Gonna be a bit different today. I've always said that I was going to do politics. Like, that's part of what politics and science communication are the things that actually got me into streaming, kind of. But then it's always a little bit spooky actually doing any of it, because you know, it's not that politics is unpopular. It just is its own crowd, right? So it feels like the community that I love, who I've built, isn't going to stick around for it. And that's, I mean, it is what it is. At a certain point, you gotta stream the stuff that matters to you. Can't all be games. A lot of it can be. For a lot of people, it can just be games. And you know what? No shade on people who keep politics out of their stream. But I think that part of being a good ally is that I wear my politics on my sleeve. And so we're doing a politics stream today because there was a huge mayoral debate last night. I think last night. Not in a time zone that I was going to touch it, but I wanted to watch it, and I haven't gotten around to it, and that means you guys get to watch it with me. We're watching Hassan react. I will pin Hassan reactions. Why do I have such a hard time pinning my own messages? I need like mod view. Whatever. Anyway, let's just get into it. I'll be reacting in time, but we are reacting to Hassan reacting because I like Hassan quite a bit. He's also being joined by Gianmarco Ceresi, who I also like a lot. So
I know for a fact almost that I will be brought up in tonight's debate.
You think so?
The Assemblyman will not denounce Hassan Piker, who said America
There
deserved
it is.
9/11. The Assemblyman just
Oh, I
said in
need
his
to turn
response,
them
well,
down
it
a
depends
lot.
on occupation. That is code, meaning that
I want them easily audible, but not.
By the way, in 6 minutes, we are going to be watching
Way more
our
audible
boy,
than I am.
Zoran Kwame Mamdani go on stage.
And we're gonna take a shot every time Israel's brought up.
Will die very soon, very quickly. But I do think, I know for a fact almost, that I will be brought up in tonight's debate.
You think so?
As a line of attack. Have you seen the Andrew Cuomo press conference that he did on 9/11?
Oh yeah. That quote. That's gonna be on your tombstone, brother.
He's going to bring it up, I think, to be like,
You really think so?
oh, 100%. He's so desperate. He has nothing.
I was hoping after I hosted the rally, they'd replace that with my 6 million people joke.
Yeah, but you're Jewish.
I know. Don't I know it?
So
Don't I know
for
it? I
that-
got that call. I said, okay,
So
I'll be there.
for that, you get protective cover.
That's true.
I'm Muslim,
Sure.
so you know,
Yeah.
like we don't.
And has he responded to that particular?
Someone ambushed him before on like one of those like right wing guys was like, Zoran, why are you?
Okay, I
associating
mean,
with
this is
like,
good stuff, but
I didn't realize don't be a dog by letting your dog lick you in the face.
That's
To him because like
I like them, but
just
let's
did
get
off
to
that.
the
Yeah,
meat of it.
yeah.
like the opposition every stuff so like perfectly because it made people go, why are they asking this dude constantly about Israel? Like he's running for mayor of New York. Anyway, the new poll shows Zoran up 52% with a +5 and
Damn.
28%, lost 1 percentage point, and Curtis Lewa coming in hot at 14%.
There's no
The
university
most
you can see
recent
Curtis
one
dropping
has
out.
him
Do you?
up
No.
5 more,
Ever drop out this?
+5 over the previous poll, where he was already obviously winning. Like, holy shit, that the most recent poll has him 52%, winning an outright majority right now in a 3-way race. Like, and like, some of that 28% is other Democrats pulling from him. So, and then, I mean, come election day, it is going to be a little bit different because I think a lot of people won't vote for Curtis Lewa because they'll see him as the less likely. But I don't think a lot, like, Republicans aren't going to come out to vote for Cuomo. So, and Democrats already roundly rejected Cuomo. So,
At 14%.
There's no universe where you could see Curtis dropping out. Do you?
No.
Do people ever drop out this close?
Well, it doesn't even matter because
Yeah.
even for example, obviously, Eric Adams dropped out, but Eric Adams is still on the ballot.
Yeah.
So, like, he'll still the names.
Oh,
are printed
damn.
already. So even if they drop it this,
the fact that Eric Adams is on the ballot, he's going to pull people not from Mamdani, but he'll pull people from Cuomo, even though he's dropped out.
point, like, sure, you'll pick up some of their followers, but there's going to be plenty of people
Sure.
who will vote.
And once again, no Republican, like, they might choose Cuomo over Mamdani, but Republicans aren't going to come out for Cuomo.
For Eric,
Just
Adams.
randomly, just looking at this going AB,
Yeah.
eeny, miny, mo.
Oh, for sure. Is this the live? Okay, here's the live.
Telemundo 47 anchor Rosarena Breton. This is a 2-hour debate live on all NBC New York and
Yeah,
Telemundo
we're gonna
47 streaming.
Do we have a
and
be here
digital
for a minute.
platforms. Politico.com.
Chat, do we have a YouTube link?
Ooh, cool.
Oh, Curtis,
Spam.
we're in the house.
No, he took the beret off.
Curtis.
He doesn't even look like
Your
him.
question and answer,
He looks
you'll have
naked.
1 minute to respond, and we'll offer 30-second rebuttals at the moderator's discretion.
Ooh,
We'll
sure.
also be asking
Bingo?
questions where we will
Hell
be
yeah.
looking for
We got
shorter
the
answers.
Zoran.
We also
Zoran
reserve the
bingo,
right to
chat.
cut off your microphone if you ignore
All
the
right.
rules, but candidates, you know we don't want to do that. The goal is for you to hear each
Yeah, I
other
thought Zoran's
and for New
answer
Yorkers
about,
to hear
the
everything
NYPD
you
has
have
been
to
really
say. Good luck.
smart.
We'll begin with Melissa
By the
Russo.
way, we're speaking.
Thank you,
I guess
David,
what I'm
and good
speaking
evening,
here, I'm
gentlemen.
thinking about
Thank you for being here.
winning.
We begin tonight by asking you to do what every mayor dreams of, and that is to write your own headlines. Imagine it's January 2027, and you have been in office for exactly
Sharia
I
law
pre-watched
implemented
this
in
much.
New York.
The headlines are trash.
about what you
Across
think
the
your
board.
biggest
None of them have a great
accomplishment will have
headline.
been in your
Like, I
number
would not
one
read
Republican
any of these
year.
Global
newspapers.
jihad.
First, thank you very much for sponsoring the debate and having all of us. The one headline, how many characters in the headline?
Oh my God.
How many characters in the
Rent
headline?
down, comma, crime down, comma, education score, comma.
He was not prepped on
more
this question.
jobs in New York City.
I'm getting maybe a little over the average headline
He's
length,
lost
but
it. I mean, he never had
Optimism
it, but he's
high.
lost
Thank
whatever
you.
he had.
Mr.
And most of the things that he's saying are things that like, oh, hi, Minx, how you doing? He doesn't even believe.
Yeah, of course.
Curtis Sliwa is without his iconic red beret because I'm talking to the people of New York City about the really serious issues of affordability, the cost of living, and obviously what.
Did you hear the hey listen? I didn't hear the hey listen. Did it just get sound alerts? You doing okay? Let me. Sometimes sound alerts gets like this. It just like decides to shit the bed. It is also way bigger than I wanted it to be. Let's make it like that. I'll add a transparency to it later, but 100. Minx, will you take a note somewhere? I'm going to double your daily emeralds for the day to make up for it. Maybe the sound alerts are going to come back in a bit. They sometimes do that. I'm going to test the sound alert real quick. Not that I want sound alerts over the debate, but you know.
Now, hey, listen.
Huh, worked for me. Maybe just everyone was talking and we spoke over Sarah. But it seems like we're good now. Or at least, you know. I was just thinking, remember, and tell me next Monday, and I'll remember, like, if you just remind me, hey, you owe me an extra $5, and I'll go, huh? Oh, right, sound alerts. You might need to prompt me with the sound alerts bit. But if you put it in chat, I won't remember it any better than I remember it right now, honestly.
I spent most of my life doing,
Let them introduce
which is
themselves. I
public
hate this
safety
weird-
in the
Well,
streets and the subways.
we would love a headline from you. What will your headline be, your big headline, and you're number one as mayor?
Someone's going to nail it.
Curtis Sliwa exceeds all
God, I don't care about
expectations
Curtis.
and looks very mayoral tonight.
Looks
Mr.
very
Montana has some time
mayoral.
to think about
That's
it
the
now.
headline.
It's a pleasure to be here, first of all, and I really want to thank the moderators and the opportunity to speak directly to New Yorkers about this moment in time and our opportunity to transform the most expensive city in the United States of America. The headline would read, in about a year, Mamdani continues to take on Trump, delivers on affordability agenda for New Yorkers.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani. Sally?
Thank you, Melissa. We're going to talk about leadership. Voters have
Weird headline, once again, but... like, let's face it, none of these are headlines that I would read.
observations about all three of you as chief executive of New York
But
City,
also,
a city with roughly
they're trying to
300,000
spin it.
employees and a budget bigger than many countries. We have questions for each of you, and Mr. Cuomo, we will begin with you. As a former governor of New York, you obviously have the management experience, but you resigned from office amid sexual harassment and COVID-related scandals. Why should voters now trust that you have the character to be mayor? You have 1 minute.
Good. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the question.
Thank you for the question. You
you
called
were
me a
right. I
rapist.
left office. There was a report that was done that had allegations of harassment. I said at the time it was a political report and that there was
18
no
women.
basis to it. It was then sent to 5 district attorneys. They all reviewed it. They found nothing. It was then litigated for 5 years. I was dropped from the cases. So none of that came to anything. When it comes to executive experience, I've run the Department of Housing and Urban Development, built housing all across the nation. I was governor for 11 years. The budget is double what it is in New York City, and I got government to work. I passed groundbreaking laws, minimum wage, paid family leave, built projects that had never been built before. This is no job for on-the-job training. And if you look at the failed mayors, they're ones that had no management experience. Don't do it again.
Thank you. Rosarina?
Just for the record, 13 credible counts of sexual harassment. DOJ might have dropped the case. I don't really care much about that. Cuomo's rich, and let's face it, most SA allegations don't go anywhere, but...
Thank you, Sally. In the theme of leadership,
there's a reason
Mr.
he was
Mamdani,
kicked out.
You work as a foreclosure prevention counselor for a winning seat in the state assembly. You have no substantial management experience. How are you ready to lead the nation's largest
Reagan was
and
an actor
greatest
before he was
city in the
president.
world in one day? You have a minute.
You know, I have the experience of having served in the New York State Assembly for 5 years and watching a broken political system, the experience of seeing a governor in Andrew Cuomo who would rather have served his billionaire donors and the working class New Yorkers who voted for him, and the experience amidst all of that of fighting and winning for working class taxi drivers to free them from predatory debt and delivering the first free bus lines in New York City history, and working with unions and working class New Yorkers to finally raise taxes just that little bit on Mr. Cuomo's donors to start to fully fund our public school. And more than that, I have the experience of being a New Yorker, someone who has actually paid rent in the city before I ran for mayor, someone who has had to wait for a bus that never came, someone who actually buys his groceries in this same city. And what all of that experience has shown me, which Mr. Cuomo can't seem to understand, is that it is far too expensive and far too hard for New Yorkers to afford to live in this city. And the definition of experience is not doing the same thing again and again and hoping for a different result. That's actually the definition of insanity.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani.
If I can, I think
did
I was
the
going
lame
to
line
go.
about
In
insanity.
other words,
Uh-huh.
what the Assemblyman said is he has no experience. And this is not a job for someone who has no management experience to run 300,000 people,
This
no
guy doesn't have
financial
one
experience to run
allegation
$115 billion budget. He literally has never had a job. On his resume, it says he interned for his mother.
Neither did he.
never
This
had
is
a
not
job.
Son of a famous
for
New
a
York
first-timer.
politician. What the
Any
fuck?
day, you could have a hurricane, you have, God forbid, a 9/11, a health pandemic.
You can't even
If
hit him
you
on the
don't know
nipple
what
line.
you're doing,
Like,
people
Cuomo's
will
the biggest
die.
Mr.
nepotism
Mamdani,
recipient.
want to respond?
And if we have a health pandemic, then why would New Yorkers turn back to the governor who sent seniors to their death in nursing homes?
Dude.
That's the
He
kind
had
of
that one
experience that's
loaded.
on offer here today. What I don't have in experience, I make up for in integrity, and what you don't have in integrity, you could never make up for.
Oh,
in
he dropped
experience.
9/11.
First, what you said was totally false, as you know.
Which part was false?
Poor Curtis.
During
No one's gonna
COVID,
bring him up
everyone
today.
did whatever they could
Which
in this
part?
state. And there have been
Doesn't
numerous
answer.
investigations where they've gone through it and they said we followed federal guidance. But yes, people died during COVID, and my heart breaks for everyone that died in this state
R.I.P.
and across
Still
this
diff.
nation.
But just to be clear,
That's-
Mr., just to fact check that, there is a criminal investigation reportedly underway at the DOJ about your testimony to
No,
Congress.
don't tell me
about-
he'll drop it.
Yeah, that is a political issue with the Congress. They made a referral, which has gone absolutely nowhere. But there have been multiple investigations where the DOJ found that the nursing home investigation was politically motivated.
Okay, we're going to
Still-
move on. We might have time to come back to it. I do need to move
Yeah,
to
may
Mr.
I
Him-
just finish
that
my,
blink, like, what?
rebuttal? But the Assemblyman still says
Good of him
he has
to ask
no
consent.
experience to do the
I
job.
don't think he
Okay,
said that.
Thank you, Mr. Cuomo. Mr.
Unlike
Sliwa,
me,
as
I've
founder of
killed
the Guardian
so many
Angels and as a
grandparents.
radio host, you've been a well-known figure in New York City for
Yeah,
decades.
he has no job
But you
experience other than
also
beating up
lack
minorities.
substantial
Oh, yeah?
management
What's his
experience. So
background?
how are you prepared to be the chief
He's a cat
executive
owner and a Guardian
officer
Angel.
of
This is
New York
interesting
City?
because
You have
anything
1
he
minute,
says
Mr.
can
Sliwa.
also apply to.
First of all, I created the Guardian Angels to provide
Never
public
mind.
safety
A
in the
paramilitary
subways and
group
streets
tasked with
when
beating up
government
black
was
and brown
incapable
people.
of doing so. I didn't do it to get a title or a paycheck.
I did it for the
Secondarily,
love of the
Cookie.
game.
I
Haven't
don't
had any
declare myself to
breakfast.
be all knowing.
Cookies
I
are good
will hire the
breakfast.
very brightest and best in their fields who have dedicated
They were
their
doing
lives
this live.
to
I don't
trying
need to be
improve this
doing this
minority
just
New
like
York
this.
Or the state, or the federal government, or the private sector. But what I will say is, thank God I'm not a professional politician. We have the architect.
You know, that's also
and
valid.
We have the apprentice of no cash bail, which has been a disaster. We have the architect and the apprentice here of Raise the Age. My own son was almost killed because of that in a gang attack. We have the architect and we have the apprentice of Close Rikers Island, which would just release criminals in the street.
Okay, but
Thank
seriously,
God
close Rikers
I'm not
Island.
a professional politician because they have helped create this crime crisis
Curtis
in
is
the
going to make
city
it
that
seem
we
like Zoran
face.
is
And I
experienced.
will
Thank you,
in
Mr.
his
Sliwa.
tactic, which will negate
Mr. Sliwa,
Cuomo's.
candidates,
He's
President
cooking.
Trump has expressed intense interest in this election and in all of you personally. Mr. Mamdani, the president called you, quote,
Isn't it crazy? Like, technically, this is now an international mayoral debate, like, since I'm in Netherlands, but it's a fucking mayoral debate, and people all over the country. The president is super invested, talks about it fairly frequently. People like across country, it's a fucking mayoral debate. This isn't running for president. I mean, questionably whether or not governor is more important than mayor for New York, but
my little communist. Mr. Sliwa, he said your quote, not exactly prime time.
Hmm.
Mr. Cuomo, he has been critical of you, but said you have always gotten along. The president has threatened.
as a Democrat, Trump saying that you've always gotten along actually might hurt Cuomo.
To cut federal funds to the city. And just yesterday, he killed the Gateway Project, the tunnel connecting New York to New Jersey. You've all promised to resist him in some way. What would you say in your first official call with the president to set the tone for your relationship moving forward? We'll give you a minute for this. We'll start with you, Mr. Mamdani.
I would make it clear to the president that I am willing to not only speak to him, but to work with him if it means delivering on lowering the cost of living for New Yorkers. That's something that he ran his presidential campaign on, and yet all he's been able to deliver thus far has been prosecuting his political enemies and trying to enact the largest deportation program in American history.
Good
and what
answer.
distinguishes me from Andrew Cuomo is the fact that he has gotten on the phone with that same president, not asking him how to work together to help New Yorkers, or not telling him that he would refuse to back down to protect those New Yorkers, but instead asking him how to win this race. That's something I can do myself. I don't need
How
the
to win
president's
the
assistance
race.
for. And what I tell the president is if he ever wants to come for
what
New
it
Yorkers
takes to
in the
get
way that
out
he has
of
been, he's going to have to get
allegations.
through the
Better when
next
it talks
mayor
about
of the
Trump
city.
to be like, here's why
All
people
right,
like
Mr.
him.
Cuomo,
He's
we'll
not
give you
doing
a little
the
extra
thing.
time,
Let's
but
do
I'd like
the
you to
thing
answer
he
this
said.
question as well, what your first conversation with the president would be like.
Okay. First, I never had a conversation with
brother.
the president that the assemblyman was talking about. But he's
never had
has
that,
a distant relationship with the truth. I would say to the
May I just say, Andrew Cuomo was saying, I never had that conversation with the president. Gives big, I did not have sex with that woman energy. Just saying.
president in the first conversation, look, we have had many, many battles. We fought together every day during COVID. And the battles were bloody. And I'd like to avoid them. If you come after New York, you know what I'm going to do. You know it's going to be ugly. And my chances are almost 50-50, even though you're the president.
Almost 50-50 of staying in control of your own city. Like, to be fair, Trump tends to run over whatever, but also, it's just not good sloganing to say that you're, oh yeah, I give a 50-50 shot of being able to protect New Yorkers.
I'd like to work with you. I think we can do good things together. But
Great campaign
number
slogan,
one,
50-50
I will fight
chance
you every
of
step of
working
the
out.
way if you try to hurt New York.
Unless he recognizes
Exactly
the
what I
justice system to go
said.
after the Attorney General of the state, in which case you'll issue a statement that doesn't even name the president. And no matter what you think about Donald Trump, you know that not even being able to name him is an act of cowardice. And that's what we would see from Donald Trump's puppet
All
on the right
right,
over here.
I do want to get Ms. Sliwa, but Mr. Cuomo, I'll give you a few seconds to respond to that.
Why are you letting him?
I
Why are
did
you
make- I
letting this
said
Muslim
political
talk over me?
weaponization of the justice system is wrong. Both sides do it. It's wrong when Donald Trump does it. It's wrong when they did it to Comey. It's wrong when Comey did it to Hillary.
Okay.
It was wrong when it
I want
happened
to
to
give a
Tish
chance.
James.
Thank you, Mr. Cuomo. I want to give Mr. Sliwa a chance to answer this. Mr. Sliwa, your first official conversation with the president, what would you say to set the tone?
Well, first of all, there's high levels of testosterone in this room. I've had a love-hate relationship with Donald Trump that goes back over 30 years. But I know one thing. We have Andrew Cuomo. We have Zoran Mandami. They want to take on Donald Trump. Look, you can be tough, but you can't be tough if it's going to cost people.
Why is the Republican candidate for mayor trying to shoot down toxic you know what?
Desperately needed federal funds. Zoran Mandami, the president, has already said he's going to take $7 billion out of the budget right from the start if you're elected mayor. People are going to suffer in this city. People who need those federal.
He didn't say that he was going to take $7 billion out of the budget. For one thing, those budget numbers are added for every 10 years, not every year. And also, he said exactly how he was going to pay for it. And it's in a good way. Taxing fucking rich people.
Yeah, he's using
What I
Trump
would
as
do
the
is
reason
sit,
as to why Zoran
negotiate.
can't
I
be,
would say, look,
the
Mr.
mayor.
President, we need that Gateway Tunnel. It moves millions of people from Washington, D.C. to Boston. But take away the Q train project. We don't need those 3 stations going from 96th Street to 125th. It's not a necessity. Sit with the president and whoever he delegates and try to negotiate. But if you try to get tough with Trump, the only people who are going to suffer from that are the people of New York City.
Okay, Mr. Sliwa, thank you. Brief response, Mr. Mamdani.
You know, Mr. Trump is already suspending infrastructure grants to this city, and he's doing it in a blatant act of political retribution. And what it requires is leadership that will stand up to him. And I disagree with Mr. Sliwa. We do need to extend the 2nd Avenue subway to 125th Street. It was a promise made to Harlemites decades ago.
Okay.
It's time to actually fulfill
Thank
it.
you, Mr. Mamdani.
Okay, quick question for each of you. Mr. Cuomo, you've been asked this before.
He mentioned my name. Don't I get a chance to respond?
Well, we get a lot of ground to cover, Mr. Sliwa.
When was the last time you spoke with President Trump, Mr. Cuomo? You've been asked this before, and the last time you said you couldn't remember.
You mentioned my name. Don't I get a chance to respond? We have a lot of ground to cover. Don't I have a chance to respond? Asked and answered.
I believe it was during his assassination attempt.
So last year in 2024. Mr. Sliwa, when was the last time you spoke with President Trump?
Oh, many years ago, we were receiving awards. I was praising him for saving the annual Veterans Day parade. Those were the conversations that I had with him. To respond, I was asked about the Q train.
Okay, real quick.
I am the mayor of mass transit. We do not need a Q train. I'm in the subways
We do
every
not
day.
need a Q train.
We have more than a capable system of transporting people.
I'm in the subway every day. Who believes this?
Mr. Mamdani, have you ever spoken with
No more
President
mass
Trump?
transit.
No more trains.
Okay.
No more
There you
trains.
We got too much mass transit.
Thank you.
Too many
Mr. Cuomo,
minorities
follow-up to
walking
that.
around.
President Trump has spoken positively about you and your candidacy,
His crew can't
even as
monitor
his
that
Justice
length.
Department, as we've noted, is reportedly investigating you for allegations you lied to Congress over your COVID record. Given that dynamic, how would you be able to stand up to this White House? How are you not compromised? And just take into account that New York.
I love that they double down on the fact that, you are actually being under allegations.
First, you're wrong when you say there's any investigation.
You're wrong.
Oh, are you?
That's not true.
And I'm not
Congress,
saying that because you're a
I've
woman
heard
and I hate
absolutely
him.
nothing. Congress did a press release. They said they sent a letter to the Department of Justice, which they do routinely to generate press, and that's what that is. I fought Donald Trump. He investigated me repeatedly with the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice Inspector General said that it was actually politically motivated. That does not back me up. When I'm fighting for New York, I am not going to stop. And I'll tell you something else. If the Assemblyman is elected mayor, Donald Trump will take over New York City, and it will be Mayor Trump who runs New York City.
We have to move on. Just very quick follow-up, yes or no. You're saying unequivocally the Justice Department is not investigating you, correct?
I've heard absolutely nothing.
They could be, and you might not have heard it, but okay, we'll move on. David?
Okay, thanks, Solid.
That is virtually impossible, by the way.
Okay.
So, Mr. Cuomo, you did put out an ad the day after the news first broke in the New York Times that you were under investigation, calling it a political investigation, saying they were coming after you as they had to, after other Democratic
It's
politicians.
cool that he's
You haven't
just
denied
debating
this
the
previously.
moderators now.
Republican Congress was. Yes, I believe they play politics with the justice system. I believe the Republican Congress does it. I believe Donald Trump does it. I believe the Democrats do it. And that's why I think people are sick and tired of the justice system and the politics.
If you think that there's no difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, then that's the candidate for you. If you think it's time to have a Democratic Party that actually stands up to Donald Trump and his billionaire-backed assault on working people, that's the candidate.
You're
doesn't work, Chad.
not
The
a Democrat,
captioning
right?
doesn't work.
You're not a Democrat. You're a Democratic socialist.
We have
you didn't
other
vote for
ground.
Kamala Harris, right?
We have other ground to cover. No, we have other ground to cover.
That's an incendiary charge. I want to be very.
You may have a chance to address it, but we do.
I'll be
we have
very
a lot
quick.
of issues to get to with New Yorkers, Mr. Mamdani.
I'll be very quick.
You didn't say leave it blank in the Kamala
I'll be very
campaign?
quick. I said leave it blank in the presidential primary because primaries are a place to air dissent. And like many Americans, I was horrified by the Israeli genocide of Palestinians. And if you want to look for me on the ballot, you'll find me as the Democrat.
Mr. Mamdani, thank you. Gentlemen, we have to move on. This week, the world is reacting to President Trump's Israel-Hamas peace deal and the release of the hostages.
Would you glaze
Many
Trump?
are
They're going to
cautiously
do the,
optimistic
will you give Trump credit?
about a lasting peace.
I hate this shit.
Of course, the mayor has no direct role in foreign affairs.
Great
and
bar
we
from
certainly have a lot
Zoran.
of questions for you about city matters.
Talk about credit.
This war has been a major topic in the campaign. And there are criticisms about your positions in the past and how you envision leading on these issues as
That's how I
mayor.
feel when there's credit.
So we have
That's
questions
what the
for all
power
of you,
and
but first for
the
Mr.
president.
Mamdani, because
supposed to
something
do.
you said that's been generating headlines in the news today
Yes.
as we come into the debate yesterday on Fox News. You were asked if Hamas should lay down its weapons, key to the peace plan and ceasefire. And some say they found your answer confusing. You said, quote, I don't really have opinions about the future of Hamas
It's not.
and
It's
Israel.
less confusing.
Beyond the question
It's more
of
confusing
justice,
to ask the
safety,
fucking New York
and
mayor
the fact
this
that anything
question.
has to abide by international law. And that applies to Hamas.
We're gonna do that question.
and
When was the last
applies
time you talked
to
to
the
Hamas?
Israeli military? So for the voters tuning in tonight, Mr. Mamdani, what do you believe about Hamas and how lasting peace will be achieved? We know it's a complicated matter, but we'd like you to keep your answer to a minute if you could.
Of course, I believe that they should lay down their arms. I'm proud to be one of the first elected officials in the state who called for a ceasefire.
1 minute. Please describe relations in the Middle East and how you would solve it. 1 minute. Here you go. Crazy.
And calling for a ceasefire means seizing fire. That means all parties have to cease fire and put down their weapons. And the reason that we call for that is not only for the end of the genocide, but also an unimpeded access of humanitarian aid. I, like many New Yorkers, am hopeful that this ceasefire will hold. I'm hopeful that it is durable. I'm hopeful that it is just. And for it to be just, we also have to ensure that it addresses the conditions that preceded this. Conditions like occupation, like the siege, and apartheid. That is what I'm hopeful for.
Yeah.
What now?
If I may,
Anti-Zoran
that means
haters?
from the
Excuse
river
me.
to the sea.
I'm being marginalized.
Cuomo's like this is my
It's a
only
debate
shot.
of three. Excuse
Yeah.
me. It's
Well,
a
just
debate
this.
of three. Do we acknowledge that? Three people?
Mr. Sliwa, go ahead, and we'll give you a second. Go
Being
ahead, Mr.
marginalized.
The President of the United States should have been applauded by you, Zoran Mandami, and you, Andrew Cuomo, on the day that he brought together that international coalition that met in Egypt, that came from the Middle East and the Persian Gulf. I certainly applauded him for bringing peace to Gaza and trying to end the hostilities in the war between the Israelis and Hamas.
Yeah, he took
So there
care
can
of
be
Cuomo's
peace
entire
between the Israelis and peace between the Palestinians. But you seem
Finger
to be
wagging
incapable
crazy.
of praising
Why?
our
He said,
president.
"Ceasefire."
And
Wait,
Andrew,
he said
you were
ceasefire.
capable of
No,
praising
gentlemen,
our president.
gentlemen, we have other-
Give credit where credit
Gentlemen,
is due. He's brought peace to Gaza.
Yeah, gentlemen, we want to hear everything you have to say. We have other questions.
Yeah,
on
we
the
need
matter.
a
Mr.
mayor who
Cuomo,
properly
please,
gives
brief
credit.
response because
Yes.
we do have other questions
Yes.
on this issue that you may be able to
Yes,
address. Go ahead.
I did applaud President Trump and his administration. I think it was a great accomplishment. I hope the peace holds. The assemblyman will not denounce Hamas. The assemblyman will not denounce Hassan Piker, who said America deserved 9/11. The assemblyman just said in his response, well, it depends on occupation. That is code, meaning that Israel does not have a right to exist as a Jewish state, which he has never acknowledged. That is from the river to the sea. That's why he won't denounce globalized
you're right.
intifada, which
told
means
you.
to kill all Jews.
Let's give Mr. Mamdani a chance to respond to that.
I want to be very clear. The occupation is a reference to international law and the violation of it, which Mr. Cuomo has no regard for since he signed up to be Benjamin Netanyahu's legal defense team during the course of this genocide. And I find the comments that Hassan made on 9/11 to be objectionable and reprehensible. And I also think that part of the reason why Democrats are in the situation that we are in, of being a permanent minority in this country, is we are looking only to speak to journalists and streamers and Americans with whom we agree of every single thing that they say. We need to take the case to every person, and I'm happy to do that, which is why I was on Fox News yesterday talking about how I wish it was more like NASCAR so we could see all the billionaires who are sponsoring you
Mr.
right
Mamdani,
on your
thank
suit
you.
jacket.
Melissa has another
We're going to turn it to Sally, actually.
Yeah, actually, this kind of flows, and then we'll go back to Melissa. Mr. Mamdani, you told NBC's Meet the Press that you don't believe it's the role of the mayor to police speech.
How
Your
do you
words
feel?
about this war have
I
comforted
knew it was
many New
gonna happen.
Yorkers, but they've troubled
No, but
others.
I
and I want
knew it
to
was
ask
gonna
about some of
happen,
this.
and he actually
there
was
is your
pretty
recent
nice about
refusal,
it
as we just
overall.
discussed, to condemn the slogan "Globalize the Intifada," which many view as a call
But this
to
is the real
arms.
shit.
In 2017, you rapped lyrics praising the Holy Land
cannot
Five. These are
believe
men
that
who were
this is the
convicted of
fucking
supporting terrorism.
Focus.
How would you assure New Yorkers,
about
especially
the subways?
Jewish residents who
What
might be
about-
concerned about this, that you would be a mayor for all?
Childcare,
You have
what
1
else?
minute to answer this.
Thank you for this opportunity. When I am speaking about the responsibility of leading this city, I mean leading not just those who voted for me, leading not just those who vote, but leading every single person who calls this city home. And that includes Jewish New Yorkers. And I have been so thankful for the opportunity I've had to sit with so many Jewish New Yorkers over the course of the primary and through the general. And it's in those conversations that I learned that this phrase evokes many painful memories. Memories of bus attacks in Haifa, of restaurant attacks in Jerusalem. And I heard from a rabbi about their roommate who was killed on one of those buses. And in hearing that and the distance between that impact and the rationale that some use of saying it, of speaking about the Israeli occupation of Palestinian land, is why I said that I would discourage this language that I do not use. And what I'm looking to do as the first Muslim mayor of this city is to ensure that we bring every New Yorker together, Jewish New Yorkers, Muslim New Yorkers, every single person that calls the city home, that they understand they won't just be protected, but they will belong.
Mr. Sliwa, we will get to you first. I'm going to ask a question of Mr. Cuomo. While you are a strong supporter of Israel, you have also been slow to develop a relationship with the city's Muslim community.
Thank you, Universal Power User, for this what you get
a terrorist sympathizer. How do you assure those New Yorkers, especially Muslims and Arabic New Yorkers, that you will be a mayor for all? You'll have 1 minute.
Yeah, well, first, I think the Assemblyman created the perception himself. Why wouldn't he condemn Hamas? Why wouldn't he condemn Hassan Piker? Why did it take us here tonight for the first time?
A second Hassan Piker mention is crazy.
It's globalized the intifada, which means kill all.
Why are you watching Hassan? Just because I like his commentary on top of the rest of the Zoran stuff. Like, I think this is a really important. Also, hey, Ame. I think this is an important mayoral election. Surprisingly, mayoral elections should not be important internationally. But then the Hassan part is just flavoring on top. Because I think that he sometimes has takes that would be interesting for me to bounce off of. Also, sorry that I was disappeared for a second. Was making a cup of noodle.
Just say, I denounce it. He won't do
older
it.
Jewish
That's
Americans
the
are
issue.
looking
And
up
his
right now.
divisiveness is
Can you please answer about your own relationship with the Muslim community? You did not visit mosques for many years. More recently, you have been.
Yeah, I don't think in any way the Assemblyman is representative of the Muslim community, which is a vital community in New York City, and I am very fond of, and I've been working with. I think he's playing his own politics. Many of his positions don't even follow the Muslim faith, so I see them as two totally separate.
He thinks it's a bad
You know, it took Andrew Cuomo being beaten by a Muslim candidate in the Democratic primary for him to set foot in a mosque. He had more than 10 years, and he couldn't name a single mosque.
He claimed that he had in the primary, but
at the last debate we had that he visited. And what Muslims want in this city is what every community wants and deserves. They want equality and they want respect. And it took me to get you to even see those Muslims as part of this city. And that, frankly, is something that is shameful and is why so many New Yorkers have lost faith in this politics.
Yeah, except,
you know,
that's totally because I've worked with the Muslim community for many years.
Name a single mosque you went to.
I'm not saying that.
Can you name a single mosque you went to in 10 years?
Before you were ever here.
Before I was here.
Before you were even in state government. I worked with the Muslim community. Imams presided over State of the States. We worked in religious working groups, tolerance groups, anti-Semitic groups, etc.
All right, gentlemen. Mr. Sliwa, Rosarita has a specific question for you, but I'll give you a second
Zoran, this is what disturbs me about you.
Good God.
You will be celebrating your birthday this weekend. In 1991, I was in the streets of Crown Heights with the Guardian Angels for 30 days and 30 nights.
Curiously was just like, why is he even
mayor
here?
Of New York City. That's right, David Dinkins.
Why did they put him on the
proud
stage
member of the
even?
Democratic Socialists of America. Abandoned the Jews for 3 days. They were left to their own means. And we protected them for 30 days and 30 nights. Then your favorite mayor, Bill de Blasio, in 2019, abandoned the Jews again when they were being attacked in Williamsburg, in Borough Park, and Crown Heights. And I had to bring the Guardian Angels in for 30 days, 30 nights. Jews don't trust that you are going to be there for them when they are victims of anti-Semitic attacks.
Okay. Brief response, Mr. Mamdani. We have a specific question for you from Rosarita, but Mr. Mamdani, please.
I agree, by the way.
One of the most meaningful experiences I've had over the course of this campaign has been the conversations I've had with Jewish New Yorkers. Jewish New Yorkers who've told me about the door that they've had to lock that they had kept open for 40 years. Jewish New Yorkers who've told me on the M57 about an apartment this speech therapist was trying to sell when a realtor told her, put the Jewish books off the table. Jewish New Yorkers who've told me about their fear in living in this city. And I will be a mayor who finally addresses that, not through the theatrics of the politics on the stage, but through action. I'll do that by ensuring that we have police officers outside of
the Jewish New Yorkers who feel for some reason Zoran being mayor is going to make them unsafe. They're not being.
You got Mr.
There's no Jews who are like on the fence going like, well.
Pro-Palestinian protests, and you've suggested that Mr. Mamdani uses languages that is anti-Semitic. How do you assure New Yorkers that you'll be the mayor?
Yeah, they really.
Oh my God, bro!
They want to hit Zoran as being anti-Semitic because he is not a fan of Israel, a fan of Netanyahu, and I don't even know, dude. The fact that he's Muslim. it's a talking point. It didn't work in the primary. I don't expect it to work in general.
I've been there for all people in all times for 46 years as leader of the Guardian Angels here and around the world. Whether
He's
it
so
is
proud
a
of being
religious,
leader of Guardian
violation of people's rights
Like,
to
it
worship
almost
as they
feels
choose
like
in
a
mosque,
dog
in
whistle.
a church, in a
You could
synagogue,
look
or a
up
shul,
the
whether it's
people looking up
because of
what
racial
Twitch is.
identity. Remember, in the summer of
Have you ever looked
2020,
up what 9/11
Asians
is?
were under constant attack because of the lockdown and pandemic. I don't remember Governor Cuomo coming to their aid. You were the governor then. I was out there going into all the neighborhoods, Flushing, Bayside. We were in down in Bensonhurst. We were in Chinatown itself, where Asians were being attacked indiscriminately because they were thought to be carrying COVID. We protected them then. Governor, you were not there for them. De Blasio was not there for them. We understand hate. And in order to counteract hate, you have to get the community involved along with the police to protect people when they're under siege. Jews are under attack now more than ever before.
Mr.
And I don't
do you
believe
want to
either
answer
of
this?
you have
Yes,
the capabilities
Thank you,
of
Mr.
protecting
Sliwa.
them
Yes.
with
You have
increased
to answer.
anti-Semitism.
That is pure fiction. I passed the no hate in our state, the strongest hate crime law in the United States of America. We tolerate no hatred, no discrimination. We are from every place on this globe, and
Unless
we are
it's
proud
you
of
that's
it.
perpetrating
and,
it.
excuse me, and we're tolerant, and we accept. If you notice, the Assemblyman still won't say he believes that Israel has the right to exist as a Jewish state. He is a divisive personality all across the
talking about
board.
Jews in New
NYPD
York,
are
and he brings
racist.
it back to
Barack
Israel.
Obama is evil, liar, and he gave the finger to the Christopher
All right.
Columbus
We're gonna
statue.
have
By
to
the
move
way,
on.
Cuomo, your laws with no cash bail turn the haters right
Thank
back
you
in the
very
street
much. You
to
have to
violate
finish.
and attack
Mr.
again and
Sliwa.
again and again.
Thank you
You're the
very
reason
much.
for that. No cash bail.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you.
don't know
Yeah.
what
Just-
I'm talking about.
Thank you.
They're trying
There
so
have been a
hard.
number
It's crazy.
of absolutely unfounded lies that have been said by Andrew Cuomo. I would just like a moment to address them directly. I've said time and again that I recognize Israel's right to exist. I've said that I will not recognize any
As a
states.
Jewish state.
I said that I will not.
As a Jewish state.
If I would be allowed
He really
to finish,
wants it to be as a Jewish state, which, I don't feel good about things about. I don't like ethno-states, like by government-controlled ethno-state. It seems like a really bad thing. We don't accept it when other nations do it. I don't know why Israel would get the pass. Cuomo's, it's a weird line of attack from him.
Okay.
that I would not recognize any state's right to exist with a system of hierarchy on the basis of race or religion. I have made that very clear, and part of that is because I'm an American who believes in the importance of
clapback
equal
from,
rights being enshrined
Mamdani.
in every single country, whether we're speaking about Israel or whether we're speaking about Saudi Arabia. You can stand here and you can lie all you want, but New Yorkers
All
know
right,
better.
John, we answered the question.
We
don't
want
support Israel.
to address some issues.
All right, and we have another polarizing
I think
issue
so.
that we
I
would
think
love to
he's
discuss
scrambling.
with you candidates. And let's talk about the National Guard here in the city of New York. Now let's go
God,
back
National
to
Guard
Mr. President Donald
nonsense.
Trump. One threat hanging
bring
over
it
the
back to New York.
city is
Good
the
idea.
deployment of the National Guard troops, like he has done, as you all know, in other cities. The NYPD commissioner has rejected the idea as unnecessary, but the president ordered troops to hit the streets of New York. Now, how would you respond? Mr. Sliwa, you have a minute.
There's no need for the National Guard in New York. Kathy Hochul, the governor,
'Cause I
when
got
we
it.
had
I'm
a
the
crime
Guardian
crisis in the
Angel.
subways that I'm well familiar with, being down there all the time, unlike my two adversaries. She sent 750 National Guardsmen down into the subways in 2024. Remember the horrible case of Debrina Kawan. Does anybody even say her name anymore? That woman who was set on fire by that migrant. As a result of that, the worst crime I've ever seen committed in the subway system. The governor did the right thing. She sent an additional 250 National Guardsmen, giving us a total of 1,000 National Guardsmen in the subway system, while our mayor, Eric Adams, was telling us it was all
Crazy.
a perception.
Laura Loomer.
So Governor Hochul has responded.
Oh, wow.
I would
She's been trying to
tell
get me deported
the President
nonstop.
of the
Yeah, I
United
saw.
States, since I'm familiar with cities
Oh, we'll
all
look at that
across
after.
America having Guardian Angels there, if you were going to send the National Guard, you don't need to send them to New York
Oh, I
City.
wasn't wrong.
There are
He did
other
say
cities
the Guardian
that
Angels
could
got it.
desperately
Yeah,
use their help in
Thank-
dealing with their crime crisis.
Thank you, Mr.
We
Sliwa.
got it.
Mr. Mamdani,
No
how would you
need.
respond?
You know, I
Make
agree
it
with
the
Police
National
Commissioner
Guardian
Tishon that we do not
Angels.
need the National Guard here in New York City. We do not need them for the purpose of safety, because if it was safety that President Trump was so concerned about, he would send them to the 8 out of 10 states that have the highest levels of crime in this country, but he won't, because they're all run by Republicans. What New Yorkers need is a mayor who can stand up to Donald Trump and
Nice
actually deliver on
off-the-cuff
that
response.
safety.
We
When
like it.
Donald Trump sent ICE agents on people in Los Angeles, Andrew Cuomo said that New Yorkers need not overreact. That is the furthest answer that New Yorkers
That's
are looking for. They're looking for
crazy.
someone who will
What the
lead,
fuck?
someone who will say that they will have their back, someone who will actually fight for the people of this city. And that's who I am, because I'm not funded by the same donors that gave us Donald Trump's second term, which isn't something that
New York
Andrew
Times
Cuomo
already
can say.
fact-checking
Thank you, Mr.
him.
Mandani.
Yeah, first, the answer in the subways is not more National Guard. I put the National Guard in the subways also. It's more NYPD is the answer. But the National Guard is not, he's not sending in the National Guard to do any real function. It's control, it's power.
Sure.
He's trying to say these Democrats don't know how to run these cities, and it's a political gesture by sending in the National Guard. He has said if the assemblyman is elected, he will take over New York. Forget the National Guard.
But this is
he
not
has
the
said, I'm
question.
going to
The
take
question
the
is,
funds.
if they order the troops to come here, what would
Yes,
you do?
well, I went through this with him. He sent the National Guard to 20 cities when I was governor. You know what city he didn't send them to? New York. Why? Because I said to him, don't you dare, we don't need it, and he backed down, and he will.
So Cuomo's answer, if Trump sends National Guard, which I don't know any reason to think that he wouldn't, except for nonsense. But his answer is it won't happen. Kind of like Trump's, if I was president, there wouldn't be a war in Ukraine. Crazy answer.
Again.
So that proves a good relationship
Wait a
with the
second.
president.
The president is going to back down to you, Andrew Cuomo. I know you think you're the toughest
Oh,
guy
yeah,
alive.
Curtis, get his ass,
But
Curtis.
let me tell you something.
Get his
you
ass,
lost
Curtis.
your own
Curtis
primary,
low-key
right?
kinda
You
likes
were
Zoran, by the
rejected
way.
by
Have you
your
noticed that?
Democrats.
Yeah.
Why
And
didn't
you have
he
a
send the
difficulty
National Guard?
Because he was like, we're the same
understanding
age. You're
what
not
the
a
term
man.
no
You're Patrol
is.
Street.
You're not going to stand up
I
to
think
Donald
he
Trump.
hates
I agree with
Cuomo
Curtis.
more than
You're
he
not
hates
going to
Zoran.
stand up to
Absolutely.
Donald Trump.
Like, he's like,
And he can't stand
at
up
his
to
heart,
Donald
he's
Trump.
a New
We're not
Yorker, and
gonna
so
write
is
on his
Zoran.
books.
Andrew is
You
not.
negotiate with him. You don't
Okay,
fight
just
with him
wait,
because
thank you.
only the people of New York City will lose.
We
yeah.
do
You
have a
stand up
follow-up.
to negotiate.
We have a follow-up.
I'd like to see a show of hands. Are there any circumstances where any of you would allow the NYPD to cooperate with the National Guard if Trump sent them to New York?
9/11.
Show of hands. Yes? No takers. Okay.
Yeah, natural
Moving on,
disaster,
if history as a
exactly.
guide, National Guard
What do you come
troops in
back
the
to?
city could trigger
Political
protests,
debate.
And we have questions for each of you about how you would handle that. So, Mr. Sliwa, you have been arrested for protesting migrant housing and for trying to serve Mayor Bill de Blasio with court papers. How would your NYPD handle protests? And would you continue participating in protests as mayor? You have 1 minute.
Well, I have been arrested oftentimes in civil disobedience. That is a great American right. But demonstrations have a time and a place. And it used to be before Bill de Blasio, I know he was your favorite mayor, Zoran Mandami, that you'd have to get a permit.
Weird
There's a
toss
time
out.
period you
Bill
were
de
in a
Blasio was
structured
also
area.
very
You get a
popular in
sound
New York.
permit,
I don't
you
know
turn
what.
around in a day. If there was going to be
He's so
civil
funny.
disobedience, you
Zoran's so
discussed
young.
it with the police department, and obviously you had an
only
opportunity
go after who
of
he's
expressing
fans of,
your
to, like,
anger or
weigh
your
on their
outrage
history
at
and not
whatever
his
it
own.
was that motivated you
Yeah.
to sit down.
I think I'm not
I
gonna
would
stand up to
remove
Trump. I
the
don't
face
think
covering.
he's saying I'm gonna stand up.
Remove those
He
face
doesn't care
coverings.
about anything.
Why
He's
are
just,
you
like,
afraid
very
of identifying
issue-specific.
who
He's
you
like,
are as a
no more
demonstrator?
subway trains,
Unless
too
maybe
much
you're an
subway.
agent provocateur
No
who's
migrant
been
housing.
sent
You
in here to
can-
cause chaos.
Thank you.
You can protest, just
The
not
next
on the
question goes to you,
subway.
Mr. Mamdani. You were arrested for
No
blocking
areas of
traffic in a
egress.
pro-Palestinian protest, and you participated in a sit-in at Grand Central. Protesters offered block streets, bridges, and hubs like Grand Central. How much of that would you allow as mayor, and what's your line in having the NYPD arrest protesters? You have a minute.
Good question,
Protest
actually.
is a part of what makes this city's history what it is. It is a part of the First Amendment. We deserve to have a mayor who stands up for that First Amendment, especially as we have a president that's looking to shred it at each and every opportunity. And we will continue to have protests in this city, as we should, no matter who is the mayor. And the line will be on the question of breaking the law. What we have today, however, is an attempt to intimidate so many who are looking to use that freedom of expression to share their opinions about the city and the world around them. And to be frank with you, what New Yorkers are looking for is someone who can show leadership in City Hall. Because when they don't see that leadership, that's when so many take to the streets. And if
he's
you
a
have
very good
leader like
speaker.
Andrew Cuomo, who is telling people not to overreact when they see ICE agents abducting girls as young as 6 years old to deport them, many New Yorkers will take to the streets. We deserve to have a leader who will actually be following through on the values of the city. That's the leader that I'll be.
Mr. Mandani, just a quick follow-up. If you're elected, would you still participate in protests?
No, if I'm elected, I'll be the mayor, and I'll be leading the city from City Hall.
But no participation in protests, right?
The important thing is to lead from City Hall. That's what I'll be doing.
Yeah. If I may respond, because I believe my name was invoked.
A very brief response, and then I have a question for you.
I dealt with ICE. I stood up with ICE. I had a war with ICE here in New York when I was governor. And I stood them down, and they moved out. What the Assemblyman is saying is he doesn't believe in law and order. He believes in defunding the police, disarming the police, disbanding the police. That's who he is. Abolish jails.
Sorry, I have a question for you. Okay, 15 seconds.
Very quickly.
No, we have to, and then we'll do just 15 seconds because we have a question for Mr. Cuomo.
Mr. Cuomo lies again and again and again. I am not running to defund the police. I am running to actually work with the police to deliver public safety. Andrew Cuomo says that he has stood up to ICE. He has not said a word about the abductions that are happening right now.
He's referring to a previous comment you made, and we will get back to this. But Mr. Cuomo, a question for you.
It's a comment he made. It's the operative language.
Yes, I understand. I said that. As governor, you put the National Guard on standby during the George Floyd protests. You didn't deploy them. As mayor, talk about how you would balance the right to protest with maintaining order in the streets.
The right to protest is a sacred right. There is no doubt about that. But the law is the law also. And you have New Yorkers now who are afraid in this city. They're afraid of Donald Trump coming. They're afraid of that anarchy. And they're afraid of the anarchy in this city itself. We have to provide public safety that makes New Yorkers feel safe. Demonstration is one thing. Violating the law is something else. Blocking public transit is something else. Stopping the students from going to class is something else. Harassment.
No students are ever stopped from going to class, for the record.
Intimidation, that's a hate crime. That's illegal. Enforce
Never
the law.
happened.
Respect the police. They're not racists, as the Assemblyman calls them. They're not a threat to public safety, as he says. They're not anti-queer.
It's already too contentious for him, but
he also lets New Yorkers work with them for
whatever.
That's ironic.
He's too comfortable to now.
I'm sorry,
Andrew Cuomo, because when you were governor for
an attack against
your
Cuomo.
parole board released
Honestly,
43 cop killers back into the
Curtis
street.
attacking anybody except for Sauron is just giving the election to Sauron. It's fantastic.
Do you want to respond briefly to the comments that Mr. Cuomo raised about things you've said about police? You can do a brief response to that.
I have been clear time and time again that as much as Andrew Cuomo wants to bring up tweets from 2020, which is around the same time that he was sending seniors to their death in nursing homes, I am looking to work with police officers, not to defund the NYPD, looking to ensure that officers can actually do one job when they're signing up to join that department.
He was specifically referring to comments you made. We will come back to that, but we're out of time.
Why are you bringing up all the grandparents I killed?
We're moving on. Thank you. Despite record low crime numbers, polls show that crime remains a top concern for New York City voters. The three of you have very different approaches to crime fighting and how to manage the NYPD. We want to get into your plans. So we'll start with this question. It's a two-part question, but it's short. How will you make the city safer? And how will you change the NYPD? You'll have 1 minute. We begin with Mr. Cuomo.
I would add 5,000.
He's really going to win with that one, the Hassan
Piker
Piker condemnation.
I think you could run next time. Your name's going to be so known
$1 billion out of the police. The NYPD is now down at one of the lowest levels
knows
of
I
would add 5,000 police.
When they Google my name, they're going to find like a bunch of New York Times articles that are positive. So they're not going to be like, what's this guy's deal?
Yeah, and again, and you have to add additional police officers because the attrition rate is so high. Part of that is going to be saying to the NYPD, I respect you. I don't think you're wicked, as the Assemblyman said. I don't think you're corrupt.
Okay.
I don't think you're
whatever,
racist.
Dude.
I value you. I will have your back. I'll be a mayor to work with you. That's how you're going to get the police.
I guess that's a fine argument, but also.
And then we have to work on the relationship between the community and the police. The police can't police the community. They have to police with the community.
The way that he mixes in arguing, we'll wait for the ad break. But the way that Cuomo, on one side, says, oh no, the police are very good people. There's no racism. Police don't do violence when, like, Democrats are watching police do violence in other cities around the country. And it just rings so hollow. New York being a very democratic, very progressive state and a very democratic, progressive city, with a large non-white population, like, it's just not going to hit. And then him saying, like, trying to attack Sauron on not working with the police, I mean, it kind of will hit because Sauron has been critical of the police, but also it just sounds like regular, every politician does this kind of garble, right? Anyway, 2-minute ad break left. Gonna take a quick stretch. I should really, if I'm going to pause for ad breaks, also go ahead and turn on my music or do something for it so it's not just dead silence and no dead air. Let's go. 39 seconds.
Next, Mr. Sliwa.
This is amazing. I'm
Oh,
standing
good.
here.
We can cut out
with
the
my two adversaries,
Sliwa
both of whom have threatened to
bit.
defund the police. You, Andrew Cuomo, during the summer of 2020,
God,
you said if
man.
you don't reform
Hakeem Resort and a
police
brain-broken
departments, I'm
older
gonna
lady brought you
defund
up one time?
And you
Oh my
certainly
God, that's
said that
kinda
to
awesome.
Zohan Mandami.
That's kinda aura.
We need 7,000 police. We only have 32,500.
I
The
create
problem
fear in
in
the hearts of
recruiting police,
elderly
which
New
neither
York
of you are
ladies.
addressing, is that their insurance was stripped from them. The state, you did nothing when you were governor,
Cuomo's
and
campus
here in
is
the
going
city,
door to door. How are you
2021,
familiar
the
with
city
this,
council and Eric Adams did nothing. They don't have qualified immunity, which you benefited from, Andrew Cuomo, with the 13 lawsuits filed against you for sexual harassment. Tom DiNapoli says we're paying out $60 million. Why? Because you had your qualified immunity as governor, and yet people have stood by
Quick
as
response,
police
Mr.
have
Cuomo.
lost their insurance.
Bro,
and
he's
all
hitting
civil
him hard
servants.
as well.
That's
It
why
would have been
you can't
courteous,
get
Cuomo.
recruits
Creed
in,
would've won.
because they're not
Which is so
insured.
good.
I
Like,
will
it's
return their qualified
crazy.
immunity
Cuomo, quick
because
Curtis
response.
they
hitting
need
Cuomo
to be
this hard.
protected like other
Yeah.
civil servants.
That is not New York State. It's New York City on the qualified insurance, on qualified immunity. It's not insurance at all.
You are entitled to
It's
free
qual-
legal counsel, which is what he's referring to.
Yes.
You have spent.
Yes, but it's
some-
New York City that has revoked qualified immunity. It's not insurance. It's qualified immunity. It's nothing to do with insurance.
So that
Thank
protected you in all
Yeah.
these lawsuits.
And yes, the lawsuits, because there was a report filed. I said it was political. It turned out to be political, and that's why
all
Someone-
13
legal
women were
fix.
lying?
Just say
Come
I'm-
on, Andrew.
Ooh.
All
Just say
13
after
women were lying?
After 5 years.
Curtis is like,
Someone-
come
State
on.
trooper, too?
Yeah,
Someone-
after
someone-
5
someone-
years,
someone-
5
someone-
That's
DAs,
true.
5 years of
I'm going to
litigation.
move on,
It was
Mr.
dropped
He's a
Mamdani.
cop rapist. That's why I call
Mr.
Andrew Cuomo
Mamdani,
cop
how will
rapist.
you
once
make?
in a while.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mr. Mamdani,
Yeah.
how will you make the city safer, and how will you change
13.
the NYPD?
Yo.
Thank you. This is the concern
Very
for so many New Yorkers,
good
and I'm
question,
proud to have a
just
comprehensive
softball.
plan to bring new ideas to this city. If you want more of the same, vote for Andrew Cuomo. If you want an actual approach to lower crime, look at our Department of Community Safety. That is something that has been hailed by experts as addressing so many of the pieces of why New Yorkers are not feeling safe today. We will ensure that no longer are police officers asked to do the job of both policing and responding to the mental health crisis. We will have dedicated teams of mental health outreach workers in the top 100 subway stations with the highest levels of the mental health crisis and homelessness. We will ensure that cops can finally go back to the response times they used to have in 2020, closer to 11 minutes, as opposed to the closer to 16 minutes today, because they won't be asked to respond to the 200,000 mental health calls that are coming in through 911 every year. This is evidence-based. It's been successful elsewhere in the country. It's time we deliver it right here in New York City. It's time for
Thank
a
you,
change.
Mr. Mamdani.
Zoran Mandami, we already
Thank
had it.
you,
It was called the
Melissa.
Homeless
Mr.
Outreach
I'm
Unit
sorry, this
of
is not
cops
free
and
for all. We
mental
have
health
another
care
question for
officials.
Mr.
And Bill
Mamdani.
de
I'm just-
Blasio
keep talking.
funded them by $1 billion
Thank you,
out
Mr.
of the
Sliwa.
budget.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Mamdani, we're going to talk about disciplining police officers. The civilian watchdog that investigates police misconduct regularly recommends discipline for cops accused of wrongdoing, but the police commissioner often overrides them. You want to change that policy so that the board has final say. Please explain to viewers in 30 seconds why you believe the police commissioner should no longer have that final say.
What I've said is that I think it's time to remove much of the politics out of the question of accountability. We have the Civilian Complaint
Okay.
Review Board, which, as you said, studies, assesses, and investigates into complaints of abuse and the violation of the law. And oftentimes, those recommendations are then subject to political pressures and not followed through on. I think New Yorkers deserve a system where they know it won't then be assessed once again that there's actually more to the recommendation in the investigation that's being done by the CCRB.
Okay, we're right.
Valid.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani. Mr. Cuomo, do you
have
believe
that answer
changes are
ready.
needed for how officers are disciplined? And are there any powers that you would give up as mayor? You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, I would not remove the police commissioner from the CCRB. I'd leave it with the police commissioner. I think Commissioner
Okay,
Tibbs
but any
is doing a very
changes
good
you'd
job.
make?
I would trust her. The difference between me and the assemblyman is he doesn't like the police. That's why he won't hire more police when everyone else says we need more police. He wants to use social workers on domestic
It's not the
violence
question.
calls, which are very dangerous. And he's told you what he thinks. He thinks the police are racist, wicked,
not all domestic
corrupt,
calls are
and a
dangerous.
threat to public safety.
Thank you.
Those are his words.
Very quick. Mr. Mamdani, very quick.
Look, Andrew Cuomo is a politician of the past, and all he can speak about are the tweets of the past in 2020. Those are tweets which I have apologized for to New Yorkers and police officers directly, and they are not what I am actually running on.
No,
But
you
they're
haven't.
incapable of actually speaking about the platform that we
guys,
have.
they're
No, they're not.
What will keep New Yorkers safe.
Can we just quickly
Peak
ask you,
woke. It
because
was
I
peak
think what
woke.
some people feel they
My
haven't
mistake.
heard
Almost.
from you. We hear you saying that you don't believe that
So
anymore, and
desperate.
you've apologized.
And he comes off
People
as
have not
desperate.
heard you sort of describe the evolution of your thought, how you got from there to here.
You know, growing up in this city, I would think often about safety and justice and the ways in which that relationship has been irrevocably harmed. When I learned about the exonerated five, when I learned about Sean Bell, when I learned about Eric Garner, when I learned about Michael Brown, and then in 2020, when I wrote these tweets, learning about the death of George Floyd. And that was a moment where it felt as if the distance between these two ideals had never been further. And in becoming an assembly member and serving and representing more than 100,000 people
Zoran
in
didn't
Queens,
condemn me, by the
learning
way.
that to
He
deliver
did say that-
justice means to also deliver
9/11
safety.
comment
And
was
that
bad,
means
but
leading a
yeah,
system
yeah.
where you recognize the
kind of
bravery
cool.
of the men and women who joined the NYPD and put their lives on the line. It
Okay,
means representing
Hassan.
the Muslims who were illegally surveilled in my
Thank you
district
so much,
and the
Mr.
black and brown New Yorkers who've been
Sure.
victims of
Thank you.
police brutality.
So, Mr. Sliwa, you've been out there, you've been on the trains, and I would like to know if you believe changes are needed of how officers are disciplined.
Let me just suggest, Zoran, what you've suggested.
Zoran Curtis.
Zoran.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Let me just suggest what you have proposed with this new police outreach unit will endanger women and children in domestic violence situations. I know I've been involved in so many of them with the Guardian Angel. They will be killed.
I've
They
been
will
involved
be
in
maimed.
many domestic
Number two,
violence.
in dealing with emotionally
Dude, he
disturbed
did a hate
persons
crime on camera
that
on
I have
Fox
dealt
News
with
like
for
a
all
couple
my
years
years
ago.
as a
On the
Guardian
Sean
Angel.
Hannity show.
You need
They just
trained
beat on a
professional
random
police
American
officers.
of,
Yes,
like,
you can have mental
Dang.
health
Latin
workers with
American
them,
background.
but that
Yeah.
has been
Yeah, they
suggested.
were like, oh,
it
that's
was
just
done
illegal.
before
They
by
beat
the
the
Homeland
shit out of him
Security.
on
And
camera
the
on the
guy
Sean
who
Hannity
thought
show.
was the best
And
thing
then it
was
came out
Bill de
later that he
Blasio
was just an
disbanded.
American
Mr. Sliwa,
citizen.
thank you.
Brief response?
To be very clear, the Department of Community Safety is not about responding to calls of domestic violence. We are speaking about mental health crisis and the homelessness crisis. These are the focuses of the work that they will do.
All right, we have other questions for that a little later in the debate, but we want to just change the pace a little bit, candidates, switching gears to the high cost
He
of
should have
living
defended
in
you.
New York City. To kick us off, we have a
The
few
comment,
quick
that was an L,
pocketbook
not on a personal
questions
level of
that
politics.
New Yorkers
Wait,
wrestle
he
with
did. He
daily.
said
So we
we
want to know
shouldn't be
how much you spend a
stopping
week
ourselves
on
from talking to
groceries.
people like
We'll begin
Hassan
with you, Mr.
Piker.
Cuomo.
He did do that.
Depends how many times my daughters come over.
He's running for mayor of
but
New York. He's not going to be
probably
like,
about
listen, as a New
150.
Yorker-
Hassan Piker
Mr.
was
Sliwa?
based.
Oh, I'd say about
Imagine in a deeper sense of how
$175
America's
with a
consequence
gallon
for
of
its
milk, now
actions.
$5 and always rising up. Loaf of bread.
Who do you want him to say?
Simple
Be like,
loaf
that
of bread
comment was
used to be
awesome. I would
99
like to do that as
Mr.
well.
Mike,
Is that what you
$3
think?
now.
I retract my
Thank you.
retweet
Price is
of
too-
that comment.
Mr.
It's
Sliwa,
too
thank you.
costly.
It's a brief answer. Thank you. Mr. Mamdani.
I actually agree with Curtis on that. It is too costly. Now that eggs are down to less than $4, though, my average spend every week is about $125, $150.
All right. Do you carry credit card debt or do you pay it off every month? Mr. Mamdani?
Also,
I
I
pay it off
low-key
every
was a
Mr. Cuomo.
was a bullet
Paid off.
that he took,
Mr. Sliwa.
I don't have a credit
which
card. I have a
allowed
debit
him
card.
not to condemn Hamas.
Oh.
And for the
Which
record,
is so
what
funny.
is your monthly rent or mortgage,
my
Mr.
9/11
Sliwa?
comment is reprehensible.
About
as opposed to Hamas,
$3,900.
which is the most honest
not,
form of resistance.
subsidized.
Yeah.
Mr. Mamdani, what is your monthly rent or mortgage?
$2,300.
Oh, I
Mr.
should
Cuomo.
stop giving them talking
Yeah,
points.
you can
Put down his
that a
phone.
poor person's supposed to have. Mine is about $7,800.
We are actually getting to
We're
that.
gonna cover that subject. Good. Sally?
Thank you. We're going to talk a little bit more about the runaway rent in this city. Mr. Mamdani, you're pledging to freeze rent for nearly 1 million rent-stabilized apartments. That really affects less than half of all rentals in the city. What is your plan for those who aren't in stabilized apartments but are struggling to pay the rent? What are you going to do for them?
Well, I'm proud to say that I, yes, will freeze the rent for more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants, and I will
Yo.
also build 200,000 truly affordable homes across the 5 boroughs over the next 10 years to
That's a
ensure
good talking
that tenants,
point.
whether rent stabilized or market
People
rate
are gonna love
can
it.
actually have more
If you
housing
haven't heard it
such that they're
already
not being
because you
priced
weren't
out
paying
of this
attention
city.
to the
And
primary.
finally, I'm also going to make it easier for the private sector to build housing in this city, because what we see
Okay.
today is that it's not labor, it's not materials, it's the weight that is often costing so much to actually build the housing we need in this city.
Thank you. And a follow-up for you, Mr. Mamdani. The cost of maintaining a building change year to year for landlords. The Rent Guidelines Board is legally required to consider those costs when deciding whether to freeze rents. So how can you promise a rent freeze today before ever seeing that data next year?
You know, we've seen the data time and again. It's
But
data
next year's data.
It's been data that's been overruled by mayors again and again. The last Rent Guidelines Board study showed that profits were up 12% for landlords of those units. And what did they do? They raised the rent, adding to more than 12% under Eric Adams' administration. What I am speaking about is actually reflecting the needs of these New Yorkers and the state of the market today. These are New Yorkers who have a median household income of $60,000. We do not need to
not
be pushing
enough
them
for to
further
be
out
in
of
New
the
York
city. We need
City.
to keep them in their
Aren't
homes.
Not
you
enough to
saying
be in
in
a
that
lot
answer
of the
that you are
U.S.,
gonna
but
prejudge-
New York City.
You will not have seen the data for next year, and you're making a determination based on data you haven't seen.
I've seen the
Trying
data
so
year after
hard.
year of the fact that salaries are stagnating.
people don't
costs are
know.
up, New Yorkers can't actually
Imagine thinking like you're going to prejudge. You don't know the data. What housing market crash are we going to need to see in order to have the rent not need to be stabilized? Like stabilized, just a rent freeze seems obvious.
afford their apartments. And I will also take action to
The
actually ensure
raising
that the landlords
cost
of those
of
buildings
housing,
can better handle their costs
no
by taking on their
shot
insurance,
it's going
their
to
property
be.
taxes, and their water
Data, and
bills.
you haven't seen next year's data
Mr.
yet, but
Cuomo,
we're going to go
I do
to
have a
Mo.
question
That's
for you on this
such
subject.
a-
You have proposed something that you're calling
She
Zolan's
tried, she
Law.
tried.
You think that Mr. Mamdani earns too much to live in his rent-stabilized apartment, though I should note that there are no income tests for rent-stabilized apartments. But critics say your plan would force people to pay too much of their income towards the rent. So if you think Mr. Mamdani is gaming the system, what about the other New Yorkers,
Yes.
thousands of them just like him, who earn similar salaries, who are living in similar apartments? What
Okay,
would-
just to follow up on what Sally was saying, because she's right. This is not a new plan that the Assemblyman is talking about. It's Bill de Blasio's plan. It was called Freeze the Rent.
Oh,
Bill
so
de Blasio says
it's happened
the
before,
mayor
huh?
can't say legally he's going to freeze the rent. There's a Rent Guidelines Board. There are certain considerations that have to be looked at. You're right, Sally.
Oh, so it's
You can't say
doable,
today
and
what
it's been
going
done
to be
before.
enforced.
Thank you. So it's not
also,
communism.
Freeze the rent only postpones the rent, because then you have to have an increase to cover the costs. Otherwise, the building is going to go bankrupt.
No.
And it does nothing for
landlords
the
go bankrupt
majority of
so
renters
often,
who
really.
are in these rent-stabilized units. There's nothing for NYCHA. There's nothing for homeowners. There's nothing for people in black, brown communities who are getting priced out. I was the HUD secretary. I built affordable housing all across this nation. I built affordable housing in this city when I was in my 20s. I know how to get it done.
How'd you
will
get
it
that
done
job?
on the rent-stabilized units.
How'd you get that
what I'm
fucking
saying is
job
those are the
in your 20s
precious
without any
units,
experience?
And we
You're out
should
of time. I'm sorry, Mr.
keep
Cuomo.
them for the
We didn't get an answer
most
to the
rent
question.
burden.
We have to move on.
But I have a question for you.
No, sorry, he invoked me for much of that question. Just a very brief response
Please,
here.
very brief.
You know, you've heard it from Andrew Cuomo that the number one crisis in the city, the housing crisis, the answer is to evict my wife and I. He thinks you address this crisis by unleashing my landlord's
actually
ability
true,
to raise
yes.
my rent. If you think that the problem in this city is that my rent is too low, vote for him. If you know the problem in this city is that your rent is too high, vote for me.
If I understand it
Some of the millionaires need
correctly,
subsidized
Zolan's Law
housing.
would not evict Mr. Mamdani.
It would not evict him.
It would
No, he
apply to
just-
people applying for.
Oh my God!
But
He's
the
making
tenant
it up.
but the
He
tenant
made it up.
advocates.
It would evict no one.
He made it up.
But
He made it
not
up.
evict Mr. Mamdani.
It would not evict him.
It would
No, he
apply to
just-
people applying for.
Oh my God!
He's
But the
making
tenant
it up.
but the
He
tenant
made it up.
advocates.
It would evict
made it
no
up.
one.
She's trying to ask the
It would
question.
have income
We have
limitation
to move
on the
on.
rappers.
I have a
Mr.
question
Sliwa,
for Mrs.
This is
Sliwa.
like
Rosarina?
a spat in the schoolyard.
Dang.
Mrs.
Can I please
Rosarina
ask
has
a
a specific question for you on
Yeah,
this.
well, I wanted to
Right
talk about affordability
Well, you can
and
use it 'cause-
obviously address
Absolutely.
that
Go
issue.
ahead.
So you've proposed, Mr. Sliwa, plans that would made a point of talking about the struggle of renters and property owners. Describe your plan to help renters and landlords.
Well, first off, we have 6,000 available apartments that the mayor controls in NYCHA, and they've been empty for years. That you address number one. Then we talk about senior citizens who are living here. My whole goal is to improve and not to move. I'm concerned about the seniors, especially those that own homes. If they're 65 and make less than $250,000, no property tax, because the property tax is way too high. We need to cut it in half to keep people who are here. And then in terms of rentals, we have affordable housing that can be built in these huge skyscrapers. You see them all throughout Manhattan and in northern Brooklyn and in Long Island City. which we have 25 Empire State Buildings full of commercial space that will never be occupied for office space. We should be converting them into affordable apartments. They're in dense areas. The infrastructure can support it. I'm the only candidate here who's against the city of Yes that would destroy residential.
I have to interrupt you because we have a programming moment right now. We're about halfway through the mayoral debate.
Okay.
Channel 4 and Telemundo 47.
So
we'll
much to
return
talk
regular
about
programming.
here. Holy. Okay, so this is the first half. This is the first half of the debate.
God damn.
Zoran cooked. I mean, he cooked. He did a great job overall. I think there's like some wishy-washy stuff there. It's just like, I get why people get so annoyed when they're like, they talked way too much about Jewish people. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, but I think, I mean, it gets it out where people go, okay, enough.
Yeah,
enough. And also to like talk about Jewish people, then like go back to affordable housing. And you're like, yeah, that's probably more important for New York City.
Did they not take a break? What's going on? I thought they were supposed to. Right?
MetroCard.
Never mind.
OmniPay.
Never mind. Okay.
Uses OmniPay?
Yeah,
We
OmniPay,
still
yeah.
here.
MetroCard. I mean, I have one, but I know I'm hanging on to the last
So
moment.
you're on the subways, Mr. Sliwa. What do you use? I'm just curious if you don't.
OmniCard. In fact, I got a whole
OmniCard.
bag. I'm in the subways, I'm in the buses, I'm in the express buses. The only candidate who rides mass transit every day.
When you need to get somewhere fast and you can't take the train, do you hail a taxi? Do you use rideshare? Mr. Sliwa, what do you do?
I try to avoid yellow cabs. As you know, I was shot in the back of a yellow cab in 1992 by the Gaudis and
You got
Gambinos.
hit by a yellow cab, too.
But I'd find my way around. If I have to, I Uber if I can't get there by mass transit.
What do you do, Mr. Mamdani, if you can't take the train?
I would either take a cab or ride a bike.
Mr. Cuomo?
I will take a cab, Uber.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Sean.
Sally?
Thank you, David.
He's
let's talk
never-
about free buses. Mr. Mamdani, this is a centerpiece of your campaign. Can you explain how you will make buses free? You have 30 seconds to answer.
Absolutely. We will make buses free by replacing the revenue that the MTA currently gets from buses. This is revenue that's around $700 million or so. That's less money than Andrew Cuomo gave to Elon Musk in $959 million in tax credits when he was the governor. And the reason that we will do so is that making buses free doesn't just provide economic relief, but also public safety. Because what we've seen is that it decreases assaults on bus drivers by 38.9%. New Yorkers deserve more than the slowest in the country. I know that I was on the M57 not too long ago, and its average speed is 4.9 miles.
We're at time, though, but the question is how you'll make them free.
We will fund the revenue that would have otherwise been brought in from fares, and that's something that we would do in partnership with Albany. And I've put forward two proposals. The first is to raise taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers by 2%. That would raise $4 billion. The second is to raise the state's top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey, which would raise $5 billion.
We're going to move along, but
So
I just
the
want
same
to point
amount
out
that
here
another
Governor
state
Hochul
has, to be clear.
opposed raising the income tax. But Melissa, we'll move on to your question.
Okay,
Could I address that on the buses? Because half the people don't pay their bus fare to begin with, Zoran.
Wow.
And so
Zoran.
it's a complete disaster. If you have free bus fare, and the Citizens Budget Commission said just last year, 2024, $1 billion of fare evasion in all different forms. This MTA system.
So if people are already not paying for it because, one, it's too expensive, so they don't use it, and so you have buses that are underutilized because people can't pay for it, or people are evading bus fare, so you're not getting any money back, why not make it free and just build that cost into the budget? Like, this feels really whatever.
Collapse. There's not enough money out there to make up for fare evasion. Pay your.
And by the way, I actually come from a town that had free buses, ran every half hour, basically all over city. Absolutely fantastic. It gives kids so much more freedom of movement without them having to bike across busy roads, walk around everywhere. People who low income, for whatever reason, don't have a car or just don't want to drive because, like, once again, we don't want everybody on the road. Free buses make buses more viable.
Fare. If you don't pay your fare, they have fare programs for the poor and the indigent. But everybody should be forced to pay their fare.
Mr. Cuomo, you had both praise and some criticism from Mr. Mamdani's free bus pilots. You're sort of in the middle on this issue. What's your plan to make subways and buses more affordable?
I think free buses is a mistake. It costs about $700 million. Just
Thank you for sponsoring the Piker Broadcasting Service chatters. 3 mega legs. Think of the 50 big
It's
ones.
been done before in other cities. It was a disaster. They stopped. They basically became mobile, homeless gathering places. What I say is free buses for working families who can't afford it, and free subways for working families. But
wait, what?
Don't subsidize rich people. on a bus. And
how are you going to?
It's been tried and it's failed.
Has that been his pitch?
Mr. Mamdani, can you just respond quickly on the point about the mobile homeless gathering places?
You know, this is something that we heard when we were fighting to make buses free in Albany when we delivered the first fare-free bus lines in New York City history. And what we saw is when we made one bus route free in each borough of New York City, there was no increase in homelessness on those buses. There was no increase in fare evasion in the surrounding area. What there was an increase in ridership of up to 38%.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani.
Right, which is what we're looking
maybe
for.
we could dig deeper on this.
So
get a sense of how all
beautiful
of you would pay
use
for
of
the big
it.
ideas. Mr. Mamdani, we'll start with you.
Doing it, huh?
We've obviously been talking about free buses. You've talked about free childcare, city-run grocery stores.
gave up 'cause
essentially,
I
you're
realized
proposing about $10 billion in
This is
new
the community
spending.
one.
And as you've indicated, you want to pay for it with tax increases. But
Yes,
Sally
yes.
pointed out, Governor Hochul said no to raising income tax on millionaires. So tell New Yorkers tonight how you're going to pay for all of this in 1 minute.
Kathy Hochul
Look,
seems
a lot of
to be
people
on
have
board.
called even my campaign
a lot
a
of what
non-starter
Zoran
when
is
we
saying.
first began. And now I stand before you proud to be the Democratic nominee.
Also, she might say no to raising taxes on millionaires. If he starts campaigning that he wants to do this done as mayor and she refuses him, it's political suicide for her. Like, it's going to sound so bad, and he can push her out as a governor by being mayor because New York just has that kind of sway. Which is one of the things that, of course, all of the New York center-right Democrats are terrified of, and why they're so many people were so slow to endorse, why people fought so hard to have him lose the primary.
Nominee who got the most votes in city primary history. And I believe we will see the same thing.
Why so many people are quietly still
to ensure that we are
backing
taxing the
Cuomo.
wealthiest and the most profitable corporations the fair amount that they should pay. Now, there are those who will say that because it will be hard, you should give up. We saw what giving up looked like when Andrew Cuomo was the governor. He gave up on fighting for working class New Yorkers and instead caved in to his billionaire donors. And what did we get? We have the fastest and most frequent helicopter service to the Hamptons, and we have the slowest and more expensive bus service across the 5 boroughs.
But again, Mr. Mamdani, I know Governor Hochul indicated this week there may be some open windows, but more or less income tax on millionaires is off the table, according to the governor.
Look, I've said very clearly, making buses fast and free costs about $700 million a year. Making universal child care a reality costs about $5 or $6 billion a year. If you raise the state's top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey, you'd be raising $5 billion in and of itself.
I have a couple of follow-ups. Mr. Sluber, you're next, but I have a couple of follow-ups.
I would just add one additional thing. We have also put forward a plan to save money here in New York City with $1 billion in savings through procurement reform, through following the independent budget office's assessment about hiring more fiscal auditors, and in actually collecting the fines and fees from bad landlords across the city.
Just a quick couple of follow-ups. If you could find some of the funding, but not all of it, which of your priorities would come first? What would be the first among equals that you would try to get done?
Well, freezing the rent doesn't require any fiscal infusion, so that will be something we'll be pursuing immediately. And universal childcare, after housing, is the second cost. Childcare is the second cost pushing New Yorkers out of this city. $22,500 a year is the estimate we've seen. That will be a priority for us.
And I just want to know if you could get the money and funding elsewhere, would you drop the call for the tax increase?
Absolutely. The most important thing is funding these agenda items. I think these are the two most important and straightforward, direct ways to do so. But if the money comes from elsewhere, the most important thing is funding.
Melissa has a question.
Mr. Sliwa, you've been talking about cutting taxes and spending. So what is your plan, and how would you pay for your programs like 7,000 more cops?
Cuomo's going to tank, I think, after this. It was so dumb.
Well, your fantasies.
And
I do
mean legitimately, like bringing my name up as like a big line of attack.
It's a fantasy. Let's deal with the
demonstrated
reality.
how unserious it is. No one knows what I am.
You already have a plan in Boston.
So if like
where
those
you
are the most
pay
impactful moments
for
that he had, it's
taxes
him
in the future. This is a great plan.
It's him defending
in
his
which
rape
universities and others who have bought up properties
moderator you actually have this
that are now taken from the real estate market and taken from property tax.
He's offered nothing that makes you go, oh,
we could raise
cool,
$1
that's a
billion
good idea.
from Columbia University, NYU, that are in the real estate business, and Madison Square Garden. Your friends, Andrew Cuomo, Jimmy Dolan, who pays no property taxes. That's how you raise $1 billion to get 700 police officers trained, vetted, and out into the streets in the 5 boroughs. And then the police will be on the subways, and they will be patrolling the old-fashioned way where they're needed, going up and down the moving subway cars where people want to see the visual protection, especially women who are being assaulted, perved. And like we saw this morning on 86th Street, a woman with a gun to her head, an armed robbery because we don't have enough cops.
I have a question for you in this topic, and let's talk about history because as governor, you raised and cut taxes. Now you're proposing some tax relief. What's the price tag for your proposals, and where will you get the money for example, 5,000 new police officers? You have a minute to answer.
I think Sally's question was very well taken. The Assemblyman's whole plan is based on a myth. He's going to raise taxes. Albany's going to raise taxes statewide on corporations, but the money's only going to go to New York City. That could never happen. It's not just that the governor wouldn't support it. It's impossible. He said he's going to raise the taxes the same as New Jersey, corporate tax. No, it would be double the tax. You would see New Yorkers on 995 fleeing to Florida. We would be alone. So you have to be realistic with revenue. You have a $115 billion budget. You have to go through that city budget and find savings. I started the state, which is double the budget of the city, at a $10 billion deficit. I closed it and added services. And we can do the same with New York City.
New York is already more expensive than these other places. People still choose to live there because of New York City.
No?
It's bullshit.
It would be whatever additional spending would be revenue
People
neutral.
go to Florida when they're ready to go to Florida.
It's impossible. You got to cut taxes for people to stay here.
Thank you.
Corporations are not going to stay here. They're being lured.
People try to do that with Austin, and they
cities that are more corporate friendly. You got to cut the property tax, income tax for those who are 19 to 28 with skill levels if they go to school here.
Thank you, Mr. Sliwa.
Andrew Cuomo thinks it's all right to spend $60 million to fund his legal defense from accusations of more than a dozen women of sexual harassment. But if I say we should spend the same amount of money on delivering cheaper groceries in this city on a pilot program, that is unfathomable.
Quick, David, I have a right to respond to that. Quickly. First, I did not bring those lawsuits. That was brought by the Attorney General, which I said was political.
Well, those
That's what generated.
Which I said was political.
Some of them have still been making their way through the courts
it's political,
this year.
and those harlots are lying.
Those 13 women had no basis. They're just liars. It's not going to float. It's not going to do numbers. Like, it sounds defensive.
Come on.
Not all of them.
Yeah.
This is a great debate performance.
What the Assemblyman doesn't say is all this money that he wants to pass.
Smart to bring up just
the one thing he did do is
13
he voted
to
for a
remind
pay raise
people.
for himself.
Yeah.
They're the highest paid
We have to cover
legislators in the
As a
United
fact
States.
check, I did ask
And
the
he has
state
the worst
controller's
attendance
office
record.
this week. I did ask the state controller's office this week. The total was above 60 million. But just those sexual harassment cases to defend Governor Cuomo and his staff was about $21
Sorry, it was the
million.
sexual harassment and
I just want to
nursing home
clarify
cases.
because you said 60, but on those cases it was 21.
Okay, thank you. We have to talk about quality of life in the city.
Coach Bell, you see,
Let's
it
turn
wasn't
to everyday
that
life
much.
in the city and some issues a mayor can directly impact.
3
We start with a
million a
couple
woman.
of questions about 311, the number New Yorkers call or text for non-emergency help. First off, have you ever called 311? And if so, for what?
You could do
Mr.
that like if you're
Mamdani?
putting out like
I called 311
luggage,
for issues with my heating in my apartment. And I've spoken to New Yorkers time and time
This is
again
bread and butter.
who are frustrated by the
He's
fact that they
Mr.
can track
311.
their Uber
He's the
Eats
type of
by
who will be
block,
on the
but when
other
they call
side.
311 for them to come to their apartment, it's just a question of hoping and praying that they do. There's no actual appointment. That's something that we would change.
All right, Mr. Sliwa, have you ever called
speak to
311?
me.
You know, there used to be that song, 911 is a joke by Public Enemy. 311 is a joke. You can call it over and over and over again, and
Have
you
you-
never
have
get
you
a
ever-
response.
have you?
The analytics are when the operators talk to you,
Mr.
as I
Sliwa,
talk to them.
have you called?
Yes, I've called them many times and gotten no
I have
response.
65
From
pets
citizens
in
I
my
talk to
apartment.
in subways
He's definitely
and
calling them
streets,
for things they
never
do
get
not
good
cover.
responses
Sliwa,
from
for a short answer.
311.
Mr. Cuomo?
I've heard a lot of complaints about 311, so I actually made a call to 311 myself to see if the complaints were
That's the
bona
only
fide.
time he's ever made it.
And I was dropped twice. Then they were going to send someone to help a homeless woman in distress, and no one showed up.
You're all expressing frustration. Last year, 311 received 38 million contacts from New Yorkers, from
God
calls
damn.
to the website. Wanted to know if you had a sense across 5 boroughs what the top 2 categories of complaints were. What do you think they were, Mr. Sliwa?
Potholes, constantly potholes. People's undercarriages ripped out, ball
Another one?
bearings,
Second one?
alignments.
Second one, top 2?
Probably
Rats.
picking up.
Rats. Okay.
The city is flooded with rats.
Mr. Cuomo, what do you think the top
Shouts
2?
out Eric Adams.
Homeless and trash rats.
All right, Mr.
How are
Mamdani.
we going to stop
With
homelessness?
housing
huh?
and noise.
Okay, so the answer is noise and illegal parking. And we're going to stick with quality of life. Rosarina?
Wow.
That's right. Let's talk
Noise
about
and-
noise
okay,
candidates
Mamdani got
because
one.
Ding,
they
ding,
fall
ding.
into
Rats
these
is
2
crazy.
categories.
That
First
you
of all,
call
it's the
311 if I
residential
saw
one. That's
rats.
the neighbors and the loud music. And the second one is
that
the
picture
street
do?
or sidewalk, everything with the loud
Meme.
construction and workers outside.
Before you start working
So,
out?
Mr. Cuomo,
head's tiny.
as mayor, what can you do to help the city that never sleeps get a little bit of rest, Mr. Cuomo?
Yeah, look, I think if the 311 system worked
what is
well,
this line of
if there
questioning?
was actually contact
As a New
with
Yorker, I'm
people,
like,
I think
oh,
New
tell me what we're
Yorkers
doing to
would
fix
get it. I
this.
think New Yorkers would
Do we have
be
to be
responsive.
whimsical
I think we have to
with the
change
question?
the ethos in this city, the ethic in this city. Right now, it's toxic, it's divisive.
How do you see New York as the Big
Everyone's
Apple?
angry at everyone. I think when we have public safety that's functional again, and New Yorkers are part of that system, I think they would be more cooperative than you think.
Thank you very much.
There's no proposal in there.
Mr. Sliwa, how would you quiet a little bit the city that never sleeps?
In the outer boroughs, I see problems all the time, quality of life issues. 18-wheel tractor trailers, RVs parked everywhere. Garbage that's not picked up and collected. In the city, we've seen trash cans taken away by the sanitation department, Jessica Tisch, when she was the commissioner. The quality of life has diminished noticeably. So naturally, people are going to revert to 311. But it's important that a mayor be able to provide services to all the people. And they believe if quality of life is diminished, the next stop is to sell your house and leave the city. And my goal is to improve and not move.
Mr. Mamdani.
But these guys see every
What we've seen is one of the biggest sources of noise in the city is from congestion. And with the implementation of congestion pricing, we've actually seen noise complaints drop in the congestion zone. And so I would continue to find ways to ensure that we have reduced congestion across the city. And one of the ways is by making the slowest buses in America ones that are fast and free, so that New Yorkers can not only live a life of excellent quality of life, but also be able to get around this city without having to worry if they have $2.90 or soon to be $3 in their pocket, which is already out of reach for 1 in 5 New Yorkers.
We have here the author of congestion pricing, and we have the apprentice of congestion pricing.
We might
I'm
need
the only candidate who's opposed to congestion pricing.
It
has led to storefronts closing because they don't have enough
owning
food.
that?
We need to move on, otherwise we might have to place a call to 311 about candidates going over there a lot of time. Okay, so we're going to move on to
Don't worry.
We're going to move on to illegal parking plaques in many neighborhoods. Recently, Councilmember Lincoln Ressler released a study that found 450 vehicles parked illegally during the day in downtown Brooklyn, many with fake or government placards. That's just one snapshot of the city, but you hear similar complaints every.
Interesting note with illegal parking. This is something we see a lot in the Netherlands. It's kind of not the Streisand effect, but like the if you build it, they will come mentality. The more street parking there is, and the more like on-street parking there is, and the more lanes you give to traffic and stuff, the more basically car infrastructure you add, the more incentivized people are to take cars. And the more public transit there is and good bike lanes there are and walkable neighborhoods, the more incentivized people are to walk or ride a bike, take the bus, take the subway even. Whether that's making it cheaper, whether that's adding lines, whether that's, making bike lanes. And so we see this in Netherlands. When you cut back on street parking, rather than getting more illegal parking, you actually get less because less people are trying to drive. Now, you do need to match that, but yeah. Basically, but that's another thing that Soren has been hitting that, like, yeah, we're going to make fares cheaper. We're going to make more bus lines available. All the good stuff.
Everywhere. So how would you fix this specific situation?
If you can't tell, I have a horse in the
race.
race.
Well, obviously, placards have been abused consistently. You have people who've created fake placards. Not only that, you have people with fake license plates, paper plates. There's all violations against the Department of Transportation rules and regulations of where you can park a vehicle. There's just no enforcement. And that's because we don't have police. We have these e-bikes going up and down. We have the motorbikes. They're not following rules and regulations. They should be licensed. They should have a way of being identified. This way, enforcement can take place because people are terrified walking out into the streets.
Mr. Mamdani, your plan for illegal parking?
We have to showcase that accountability is true, whether for New Yorkers who are just living in this city or those who are working for this city. And the violation of traffic laws are violations no matter who is doing it, and to show that that accountability is something my city government is actually going to pursue.
Okay, Mr. Cuomo.
Good answer.
On the quality of life, you're right, is very, very important. On the placards, I would make it simple. I would recall all the city placards and reissue only those that are bona fide. Period, on day one. On the quality of life issues, The worst thing that could happen is if the Assemblyman's proposal for legalizing prostitution went through. That would be terrible for the quality of life. He also doesn't want to enforce misdemeanors.
We're getting to that,
That's
Mr.
assault, larceny, etc. That would
We're
be
going to have
terrible.
time to address that.
I want to be very clear. Not only have I never called for the legalization of prostitution, I'm not calling for that today either. And I also have never said anything about not enforcing misdemeanors. This is just yet another figment of Andrew Cuomo's imagination.
The DSA, which you give your part of your salary to, that's their position: abolish jails, no new carceral facilities, don't enforce misdemeanors. And you're on the bill in Albany as a sponsor to decriminalize prostitution.
The difference between myself and Andrew Cuomo, of which there are many, is that there is no one that is actually telling me what to do other than the 8.5 million people who call this city home. If you want my policies,
Okay. All right.
you'll find them on my website.
Who told you to legalize prostitution?
Well,
Okay, we actually have a question.
Andrew, you can't escape this. You signed the law doing away with loitering for prostitution. That was the law put forward by Jesse
All right,
Ramos.
gentlemen,
you started the
Argument
prostitution
time.
All right, gentlemen,
in
Mr.
East
love
Oak
it.
first,
Mr. Sliwa,
and
Mr.
Jackson
Sliwa.
Heights and Flushing.
Mr. Sliwa, we have.
And you want to add to it, which
Mr.
diminishes
Sliwa.
the quality of life.
Mr. Sliwa, when I talk over you, nobody's hearing you, and we actually have a question on that. So we'll let Rosarina ask.
And for this question, candidates, we want to come to Queens, where we know that prostitution has been an ongoing complaint. Mayor Adams formed a task force and ordered sweeps by the NYPD. But the situation continues, especially around the very popular Roosevelt Avenue. As mayor, Mr. Mandani, how would you handle this situation? You have 30 seconds.
I want to first be clear that I am not, and nor have I ever called for the legalization of prostitution. And if you are happy with what's happening on Roosevelt Avenue, then you should vote for Andrew Cuomo, because his policy is to continue the exact same ones we've seen under Eric Adams. My policy is to actually take on sex trafficking, to have a zero tolerance for violence against women, and to follow the advice of district attorneys that we have here in New York City,
And you know
the current
Andrew
Manhattan
Cuomo
DA, the former
has a lot
Manhattan
of
DA, the
tolerance
current
for-
Brooklyn DA, the
That's what
former
I bring it
Manhattan
back
DA
to.
having said
Yeah.
that prosecuting women for prostitution is something that actually leads to less safety.
Mr.
And what we need to do is provide an economy
Mr.
of
Mamdani,
opportunity.
just a quick clarification. So no legalization. How about decriminalization?
I do not think that we should be prosecuting women who are struggling, who are currently being thrown in jail, and then being offered job opportunities. I think we should be actually providing those kinds of opportunities at the first point of interaction.
Smart
Mr.
way
Yo.
of decriminalization.
Yeah.
Look, Bill
He has
de
a very
Blasio,
good way of
the Assemblyman is a
Mamdani's
mini
very
BDB,
good at
okay?
spin.
He's Bill de Blasio like.
He really presents like
He
the opposite does
proposed
this.
legalizing prostitution. He didn't get it, and he just told the cops, don't arrest any more prostitutes. There is a bill in Albany that he signed that says the prostitution, that a woman who is a prostitute, that would be decriminalized. That is what the bill says. And that's what he said, if you listen very carefully. That would take Roosevelt Avenue and explode it, because it would make it legal for prostitutes.
But real quick, how would you handle this
Once
situation?
again, like, if you want to criminalize sex work, you have to criminalize it at the source of people using it, not at the source of people providing it. We're sex work positive. Even if we think that sex work is a bad thing for society, criminalizing the sex work itself is just sketchy. It just leads to worse policy, makes people's life worse in general. It's a rough. You can criminalize people hiring prostitutes if you want, but sex workers often are sex workers because, well, one, it's often because they have no better thing to do, but also, like, you're always selling your body. The fact that we make sex into this dirty thing, like, yeah, there are certain dangers associated with sex, and particularly with having lots of sex with lots of people. Like, that's for sure. Are you doing more harm to yourself or others than are you doing more harm to yourself or others than soldier or a construction worker? Or there is social stuff to it, but also particularly because so often people who are in sex work are being exploited, doing things to make it easier for them to come forward with their exploitation without risking being prosecuted for the fact that they're a sex worker, giving them more protections, giving them an ability to actually vet people. We saw this with Reddit doing was it Reddit that they criminalized, that they took a very hard line against sex work on site. Couldn't have been Reddit, because Reddit, you have advertisements for fantasy and stuff all over, although whatever. But it just pushed it underground, and it makes it more dangerous for the workers. The workers selling themselves is not inherently, I do not think that is inherently immoral. The people using them may or may not be immoral. I think that's, there's a valid argument that the use of it, particularly, people who are using sex workers to cheat on people who are, misogynist and are abusive to sex workers, people who use sex work as a way to objectify women. I think that's all very negative, but none of that is something that is directly on the sex workers. That is something that is on the consumer side. That is on something on the people who, once again, make use of sex workers, do various things. I think that criminalizing sex work pushes it underground. It makes people who are in sex work for various, whatever reason they're in it, and have issues, have something that they need to report, have whatever, it pushes them away from that. And ultimately, once again, I don't think that sex is any more immoral than, I don't know, anything else that you do, really. So, and people destroy their bodies doing freaking factory work or construction. People doing, goddamn, soldiers, right? A soldier is putting their body much more on the line than a sex worker. Soldiers are venerated for what they do, and sex workers are criminalized, or at least socially persecuted for it. And I'm not about that. If you want to criminalize sex work, I am okay with criminalizing the use of sex workers. I think that you need to go in the same way as with criminals, that, like, not criminals, as with drugs. You can make sure that there is pimps, whatever, that people who are doing who are exploiting sex workers, that they get in trouble. We can make sure that we can criminalize people using them. In this case, it's kind of the opposite as drug users, where I think that if you buy drugs, you might have a mental health issue that needs to be dealt with. We should deal with the addiction, but we don't make that a thing. We criminalize the seller. I think that sex work is kind of the opposite. You have to criminalize the buyer, because the buyer in this case, or rather the seller in this case, is the one who is more harmed by the interaction. I think that people who are desperate are going to turn to sex work often, and you can't stop it from happening. You can just make a bunch of people into criminals for using their body how they choose to. Sometimes there's a bunch to it. Illegal in certain states due to impossibility of institutions and standardize. Slaying of sex is not the thing that's causing it to be outlawed. It's the untracked sexual health and consequence of uncontrolled spread of STIs. Knowingly passing on STI is illegal in most states. And I think that is valid. I think that, as I said, I think that that's something that is, when you criminalize the sex work, it makes it harder for the girls to track their sexual health. In a lot of places where it's been fully decriminalized, such as Netherlands, any place that, legal brothels will have very strict STI screening as part of going to the brothel. And in fact, they are required, because they put up laws around it, that that's something that the brothels are required to do legally, because they have completely decriminalized the sex work. And that means that they have some ability to regulate it. Whereas if you have it criminalized, a lot of desperate people are going to do it anyway. And they can't report abuse. They can't report trafficking. They can't do a million things because they're sex workers, and that's illegal.
To enforce the law, or it's illegal. I went to Roosevelt Avenue. I talked to the store owners. I talked to the neighbors. I walked down Roosevelt Avenue with prostitutes there at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Your turn, Mr. Sliwa.
I've dealt with this.
Prostitutes at 9 in the morning?
In Hell's Kitchen in Chelsea, when they were overrun with open
the
air
word person to talk
prostitution
about this
and
is
Times
he's
Square.
literally
You don't go after the
Andrew
women.
Cuomo. Yeah.
Women are the victims here. You lock up the Johns, you shame the Johns. You let everybody know about the Johns. The
Even
madams
Curtis
and the
is a
pimps
tolerant
need to
approach.
be
Damn,
prosecuted
Curtis
to the
is-
full extent of the law. And these absentee landlords who knowingly rent their
Curtis Sliwa,
rooms,
only
their
acceptable
apartments
Republican in
out for
America,
use
I
of
swear to God.
prostitution. The Department of Buildings should come in, padlock the building, seize the building. Because many of these landlords live in Delray, Florida. They did back in the 80s and 90s when we did it in Chelsea and Times
Dang.
Square
Thank you,
and Hell's Kitchen.
Thank you,
and they're
Mr.
doing it
Sliwa.
again,
Okay,
and
thank you,
there's
Mr.
no
Sliwa.
enforcement. That's why the prostitution
We're going to go to
flourishes in those
Sally now.
neighborhoods.
Work solo under the exploiters, pimps. No, I agree with that. But that's why I think that we need, like, just what Curtis Leo was saying here. Weird being on that side, but that you need to criminalize the Johns. You need to make it like, you need to do more to get out the people who are exploiting them, people who are doing human trafficking, which I do think that being a pimp, being a organizer, a private organizer for a group of sex workers is human trafficking. And I think that you should definitely be policing that hard. You should be chasing them down. But also, like, you should be encouraging women who are being exploited, whatever, by somebody who is selling them whatever. If they're not getting STI checks and whatever. Like, you mentioned earlier that knowingly passing on STIs is illegal in most states. If you tell women that if they are involved in sex work, whether that's at a brothel or on the street, and a person comes to them and doesn't have a negative STI screen, that you have full rights to, you're expected to refuse them. And if someone tells you not to, that, like, they'll be criminalized and report it, and do something to encourage sex workers to report whatever person is above them who wants them to not have STI checks, right? Make it, yes, I'm saying we need to unionize sex workers. But I mean, seriously, there needs to be more pressure on all the community around it. The women who are actually on the streets, I think that it really sucks if there are people trafficking women who obviously they don't want to get STIs, right? Nobody is, oh yay, I get to deal with STIs again. But they get into a shitty situation. They're poor. They have whatever reasons that they get into it. And I think there's a lot of desperation that gets a lot of people into sex work. Not everybody. There are plenty of people who are in sex work because that's what they want to do. People with Fansly or, various things. I think there are people who choose sex work because they enjoy doing it, and power to them. They're not the ones that are the most exploited. They're not usually the ones, like, people who are choosing it are getting the STI screenings. You need to do more to make it safe for the women because they are not the ones who are themselves doing the harm. You need to make it worse for the people who are either hiring them, and definitely make it aggressively go after people who coerce them into work in unsafe environments or otherwise, harmful environments for themselves or others.
Thank you, David. We're going to talk a bit about experience.
In the same way that, like, porn is legal. If you show CP or a snuff film or something, and like online, you're going to get the FBI combing through anything they can for hints about who you are, and you're going to get prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And I don't think this is controversial. Good. I think that we need to have the same kind of thing with other sex work. That's just like, if you are not promoting positive sex health in your sex work, there needs to be a pressure from above that is going to be looked into and taken care of. But that doesn't happen by criminalizing the women, because I don't think, once again, the women. On a personal note, maybe a bit more extreme. While I want more systems in place to protect sex workers, don't really want to be accommodating to it that it causes sex work to be an attractive work opportunity or be work that somebody would willingly retain. It's bad on a personal scale in many levels, but moreover, just concerned over the impact of productivity of a wider society. I think that there's something to be said that, like, human productivity is a weird thing because we have so much automation now, and a lot of people are losing work or worried about losing work because automation taking over their jobs. So many people already go to work and they basically will tell you that they feel like they do nothing most of the day, just like sitting at an office, practically staring blankly at screens or waiting on a meeting. I worked as a gas station attendant for a couple of years, and I was there to help people at the pump if they had questions and to sell a couple of things that we had in our little store. I just had a little kiosk, mostly cigarettes, let's be honest. But the pump didn't, there was not a gas station attendant at the pumps all the time. There was a large swath of time when the station was empty. I think that could be reduced down to like 4 hours in the, like, call it from 2 till 6 p.m. That if you have questions, whatever, if you need help with the pump, let it known that we're going to have an attendant in these minimal hours. But we don't need one from, I think we had a pump attendant from 5 a.m. until 11 p.m. Most of those hours in the morning and evening, you'd see maybe 3 people. To be fair, in the morning, you did have to deal with a gas delivery and a couple of other things that, open up the station a bit more. But overall, it was a very bland job. Get more that are outside. I mean, there's plenty that are outside a supermarket or something, and they just have somebody who occasionally monitors it. And then if something happens, security or, a manager will come by and deal with it. My job could have been replaced by a camera that's in the security office. Many countries need to work on conditions and attractiveness of blue-collar work. Switzerland has done a fantastic job in this regard, where about half of school graduates go on to accept an apprenticeship rather than continuing with school. I do think that that's a big thing. I think that many younger people were sold the idea of higher education, and then their degrees are used basically as a showpiece on their wall, if that, something that they keep in a filing cabinet. I do think even within that, while we could use more construction workers to get better to deal with housing crisis stuff, although in many places there are more empty houses than there are homeless people. A lot of housing crisis stuff happens from conglomerates buying up houses so that they can keep rent high. A artificial scarcity. And I think electricians, plumbers, I'd love to see, I'm all for giving more value to blue collar work. And I think that there's something to be said that we get almost to if we have more blue collar workers, so long as you treat people well, as we get into this thing with automation and people being more efficient and all of these things, maybe, I would love to see a world where blue collar workers in particular doing apprenticeships, even working at McDonald's, where you work for 20 hours a week and that gives you enough money to do all your stuff. And I think that that's reasonably attainable. I do think that I don't think that so many people are going to look into sex work that it's going to be, even if it becomes something that people are given means that they're able to choose it, I think a lot of people still wouldn't choose it. I don't think that it's going to destroy humanity through it being a thing. I think that it would just be something that some people like, but many people are still going to tie sex with relationships and stuff, and I don't see that changing, and I don't necessarily think that should change. And a lot of other people who might have been in sex work are going to find relationships and want to quit because of that, or not want to be in sex work because they find it hard to enter relationships with that as a job. People worrying about doing it into old age. I think there's a lot to be said for those things, for these commentary. I don't see a world where it causes societal collapse. But yeah, I'm all for stuff that you're saying, that we want to see good blue collar job market. We want to see reasonable pricing for stuff. Every society could do well with more mechanical engineers, electricians, mechanics, carpenters, construction workers, and so on. Yeah. They need to let go of the perception that doing handiwork means you don't have brains, because often it's equally, if not more demanding. True. And even if you got a overflux of them, we have enough resources that we could be, let's say that there's only 20 hours of work for everybody, rather than giving half the people 40 hours of work and half the people 0. We could just pay people their value so that people didn't feel they needed to work. Now we're getting an ad in 10 seconds. I could delay it, but only for a second. and people have schmad blockers. But yeah, no, I think that the college path is oversold to people, and it puts people who really shouldn't be on that path into it. And there was also a long time idea that, or not an idea, a narrative cast by 90s parents that like, oh, if you don't go to school, then you're going to have to be you're going to have to drive a garbage truck, right? And I think that's a crazy narrative that people pushed. Because, like, one, we need garbage workers. Like, garbage workers are actually super essential, right? And it's in many ways, undesirable work. But we should be more proud of the people who are doing that because of its undesirable qualities. And because of its undesirable qualities, garbage men tend to get paid. Like, it's, for being relatively low barrier to entry, garbage work pays really well. And it's a shit job in a lot of ways. Like, you got to deal with the smell, you got to deal with often weird hours. It's tiring work. I think that we honestly need to be treating garbage workers much better than we do, even though they do get paid pretty well for it. Yeah, like, I'm in favor of a world where people work 25, 30-hour weeks, which I think is completely attainable with the amount that productivity has increased in the last 100 years, but particularly in the last 50, in the last 20, in the last 5. The amount of productivity per person has skyrocketed. I think that we have the means to have everybody working. Okay, let's put it this way. You know what? I'm going to wait for the ads to end to say this one. I'm going to grab a drink. I'll turn on music for you guys. People who are subbed. All right, I'm back. Are you back? I'll keep the music on since I am chatting. I'll just keep that ready. Okay, so where was I on it? Oh, right. Why is it that in the 50s, productivity was much lower than it is today? Like, when you look at how the productivity value per person, right? The productivity value of people in the 50s was way lower than it is today. And yet it was expected that that only one person worked and the other person stayed home and took care of kids and stuff, right? It used to be expected that you could survive on a one-person income. So why is it that both parents need to be working 40 hours despite having higher productivity today? And often people are working, 60-hour weeks in a lot of places in the US for low-income earners. It's because the decade following a decade of the highest productivity the US has seen in history. Productivity in what way? Because at least from if I remember stuff, like the amount of productivity has never gone down. I mean, it has obviously in blips, but like automation, for instance, has pushed the productivity so high, the usage of computers, like the ability for us to email our coworkers and email across the country to ask questions about complicated issues. Hell, voice calls. Being able to make a fucking PowerPoint presentation. Having the internet to answer questions as you need it. Machinery's gotten more advanced, all these things. Like, the productivity, I feel like, is much higher now than 20s, 30s, 40s, right? I think it was, there was an old philosopher / economist. Was it Adams? Locke? God damn it. My name retention is so bad. I could look it up. But there was a prediction in, I think it was the 1910s, I want to say, that 50 years or something in the future, people would be working 10-hour work weeks because the productivity caused by machinery, basically, computers not even a dream yet, but the increase in productivity by mechanization would make it so that people only needed to work 10 hours a week because we could do all of the agriculture, which has for so long of history been, they say, one of the big signs of growth, like productivity, our ability to modernize, is what percentage of the population is involved in agriculture. Because for so much of human history, like, there was a time before agriculture, and we say that civilization was mostly founded on the invention of agriculture. A lot of historians would say that the plow was the single most important invention in human history. So that because of the wartime economy and widespread U.S. rebuilding efforts in several countries post-war, in addition to not dropping off immediately due to tensions with Soviet Union. No, I think there was definitely, and we look at, particularly for white people, the New Deal with FDR, that the U.S. employed people who were unemployed to do a bunch of construction work, basically, to do a bunch of infrastructure work, which is why you see so many bridges that were basically built immediately after World War II, and then it's been a struggle maintaining them because there's not money in it and US government's not footing the bill as much as they should. But yeah, no, there was definitely a boom of productivity right in that time. And at least once again, if you're white, there was huge benefits that came immediately after it. That said, I still do think that with automation being how it is and production assembly, and yes, we have more goodies today, like you have to have somebody to make computers and all of this stuff. But even with all of the extra goodies, the amount of stuff, the ability to make people make stuff per person has gone up so much, and the ability for even people who are not making stuff, but people who are doing intellectual work, the speed. We talk about how medicine and engineering and all of these fields are having a exponential increase in their tech because of the people working on them. And I think that a lot of that's the internet. The Netherlands is considered one of the places with the strongest like work-life balance. A lot of people put life above work, and I think that average work week is 30 hours because a lot of people do 20-hour work weeks, and there's protections for people with 20-hour work weeks here. But yeah, I just feel like it's ridiculous, and maybe that means some degrowth. And degrowth is always an economically, particularly in a capitalist market, degrowth is a scary concept. But maybe, you know, we have to talk, if we talk about planned obsolescence, if we talk about not advancing, you know, a new Windows system every 10 years and just constant new shinies that are replacing the old stuff and a bunch of things. Build things to last. Don't fight to always be, you know, constant growth in a, you know, infinite growth in a finite world. It would help with greenhouse stuff a lot. And also, like, maybe we have to do that, but I would trade a little bit less goodies in order to have everyone have maybe 20-hour work weeks, or have single-family households be once again the norm. Single worker households be the norm. Give more social programs for kids and single parents so that the pressure to join the workforce when it's not to join the workforce while you're still developing, or the pressure to join a workforce at the expense of your children is not as great. I think that we need, you know, I think that we could also put a lot more money into disability programs that, like, your value as a human isn't intrinsically tied to your ability to work. I personally think that we're practically to a post-scarcity economy, particularly within modernized countries, and most people, if I talk about a world where robots have taken over everything, and any job that a human could do, a computer can do more efficiently, most people say that they don't want that world because they can't imagine, like, they find value in their work. And I think that on that line, if you make work strictly optional, many people are going to choose to work anyway And potentially many people are going to choose to work full time anyway because they find value in their work. And a lot of other people, I think even the vast majority of people, might not work in the conventional fields, but they are going to work on, they're going to do things which are work. I've shared often that, like, if I imagine a world where nobody had to work, and because, like, people don't expect to, like, where I'm told that you don't have to work, and so we don't have enough garbage collectors, and garbage starts piling up on my street, as a civilian, just as a regular person, not with any monetary pressure, I'm going to take my truck or take, you know, my little red wagon. I'm going to do something, and I'm going to spend every so often cleaning the street because I don't want to live in a street that's crowded with garbage. I think that a lot of the work that people are forced to do now by economic incentive, in a world where their needs were cared for, people would still do out of community responsibility and a desire to keep their own livelihoods good. And I think, like, most scientists, for instance, also most teachers, do not go into it for the money. Like, particularly if you see a teacher with a PhD, they're not there because they are trying to get rich. Like, they wanted the knowledge and they wanted to teach. And I think that same thing, like scientists, most scientists, even like university professor scientists, are not just dripping with money. And a university professor is one of the better things that you're going to get as a scientist most of the time. Physicists, chemists have a range in pharmaceuticals. I'll give them that. But a lot of these guys, like, it is a fight for a lot of the sciences to find jobs that make money, but they're incredibly important, and they continue to do it because for the love of the game. Like, without economic incentive, a lot of physicists would still willingly choose to do physics. Now, how productive they'd be without an economic drive, I don't know. Maybe, like, is there a value to a societal enforced structure to work? Yeah, maybe. A lot of people do a lot better with, if you give them a physical schedule and somebody who's expecting them to follow it. I do think that that's important. Biochem makes insane money here. Chemical field's very fiscally bountiful to a crazy degree where you live. No, like I said, there's a lot of money in pharmaceuticals in particular. And whether that is not just pharmacy, I shouldn't say, but like medical. And that is a good place to be for chemistry specifically. Physicists have it a little bit harder. Like, sometimes physicists can either be a console for engineers or become engineers themselves. But a lot of physicists don't really want to be engineers. And so then you often end up working under another big physicist on a project or teaching, often, obviously. You get, there is a space for materials science, which kind of is, materials science is that weird boundary that is a little bit physics, a little bit chemistry, and a little bit like this other thing, but also just like, materials science is a really interesting field. Sorry, one moment. But yeah, I think that there's But, well, like you said, biochem, I do think that some chemists go into it for the money. Like, I do think that's actually a thing, particularly once again for, like, you mentioned biochem. In a similar way that, like, I'm sure that lots of engineers go into engineering for the love of the game and, like, electricians, but more of them are probably in it because it's for a very long time, engineering and electrical and stuff have been, like, known as the big fields where you can make a bunch of money. Like, yeah, you can make a lot of money as a doctor or something, but that's its own hellish conversation. A lot of doctors, like, live a rich lifestyle while being in crippling debt. Because doctors are definitely that, particularly in the US, doctors are the occupation where where you're making great money, but you put yourself so far into debt to do it that you're going to be paying it off until you're like 50. And people just kind of live with that expectation in mind. Like, they don't try to pay it off super fast usually. They just, like, pay it off slowly and live on that budget, and they're actually financially in the negative for ages despite living good lives. Doctors, but also, man, doctors, depending on what field you are in as a doctor, a lot of doctors get so overworked and don't get the respect, particularly pediatricians. I feel so bad for because family medicine. Family medicine often is the field where, like, you're expected to handle just so many different people and you get so much work put onto you because you're not a specialist. You're not, you're not being called only for certain operations or for a very narrow thing. And you often aren't paid as much as the people who are doing these specializations. So overworked and, relative to other doctors, underpaid. Rural medicine is crazy. They kind of are paid. Actually, rural medicine often is paid very well because they're often given supplementary pay through the state. But working with minimal equipment and just very few resources, sometimes you are literally the only doctor in several miles. You get paid well, but that's a weird situation to be in. I need to turn on a light. Goddamn, it's definitely not summer anymore. Damn, is it already that time? I thought, honestly, that we were going to get through the debate. But I got sidetracked, and that's, expected. I'll finish watching it on my own. It's not going to be relevant by Monday. And besides, that's Minecraft Monday. But let's, I'm gonna move to closing statements just so I can hear that much. Spoilers.
Million people in the kill zone.
Thank you, Mr. Cuomo. Mr. Mamdani, local law 97, how would you enforce the law?
Comply with city with
Mayor.
So it was like a double bind in that regard.
Which parades?
A number of them. I've already missed. I would not be attending because I'd be focusing on the work of.
And I'm not going to be able to find it easily. That's fine. let us. It's gonna be Minecraft Monday on, well, Monday. Got all sorts of stuff to do next week, of course. Play some more mirror dungeons. I don't know. I might do an extra day of. Crazy. There's a channel, just their name is Marxism is Theft. That's wild. Screw it. Since you're watching his stuff anyway, this is not even, I don't think, anything. Yep, we're gonna go ahead and right into the Hasanabi waiting room, because apparently that's a thing. I think that they literally just play old streams and stuff, and then raid into him when he goes live or whatever. I don't even know. But it seems like as good a place as anywhere to jump into. And yeah. I will catch you guys Monday. And y'all have a great weekend. Night-night. Bye-bye.